Ừ. うん。 Staff sound you're looking for a really fun destination. Yeah, you see it, Hickory, you find a cottage, because right on the lake, which we could absolutely beautiful, very cute. Can we make sausage words a thing? I know everyone's obsessed with cheese and charcuterie, but this is so much more fun. I parked in a warehouse in a huge yard. If you're from Wisconsin, you have to check out this magical bookstore. Behind the scenes, what trip book there are. Like better than factory tours. Literally gone on vacation. And have gone on factory tours last vacation. So we got the opportunity to tour behind the scenes at Quick Trip. We're pretty darn excited. I should say, I was really excited. I was just there for the blazers. But it was really cool to be behind the scenes to see what we're Thanks for being like the big screen. And the Bill was amazing. He's had a film. He created a film. Check it out.
Recording in progress.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on around 9:39, July 23rd. Welcome, everybody. And we have 6 of us here in attendance with Matt Smith on Zoom. I believe Josh Puritan is on his way traveling with his son up north to a 40 Clays event, and I guess is not on, correct? And then we would just, like to, I guess, honor one of our past board members who passed away, recently. He was former chairman and did a lot for this area and this industry, and I appreciate all that he did for us. Any other announcements before we go through the administrative reports? And thank you to the Seed Lab for hosting us this morning. Anything else we need to go get out of the way before we get the administrative reports, and that will that be for you?
Yeah, I can present them if you'd like me to. We can look at the January 15th and 16th special call minutes for y'all's review and approval. It is in that big
Should be
packet.
in your package.
Yes, and they're all kind of stapled together. It is 6 sets of minutes. For 6 days, 3 sets of minutes, sorry. And just need a motion to approve the special call January minutes.
And which everybody should have had this in their email prior to.
Yes.
Do we want to approve all of them all together? Or do we need to go over one by one?
You could do them all together if you'd like.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion to approve all of the minutes that are presented in this packet. So moved. We have a motion by Wes. We have a second. Also, we have a second by Matt Robertson. Any discussion or changing on the accepting of the minutes, even online? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And I will be giving your financial report. Bear with me. I'm not a NUSA. He's great at what he does, and I am not that. But let me, actually, y'all have the financial in front of you. So today I'll give the financial report. It covers the period that ended on June 30th, 2026. That's the end of our state fiscal year 2026, and I'll walk you through that column that's labeled June 2026 on that financial report. So we'll start with where we began. We opened the year on July 1, 2025. At that point, the board had $9,765,759 in our reserve. Now to what we brought in during the year, we collected $7,132,298 in checkoff assessments. So then the money that passes through our board, some of it's allocated to USB, United Soybean Board, at $3,471,254. Some of the other money that goes to other QSSB soybean boards is at $87,845.
Does everybody understand where that's from? That's from, like a Mississippi producer that dumps in our elevator, right? It goes back to that state.
Yeah, beans grown in another state that are sold here. So that money belongs to the grower's home state, and so it goes back to them. Then there's the state's fee for collecting the money at $211,585. Once the, yes, sir.
What was the announcement the governor had the other day on those, was it on those collection fees that she waived?
Yeah, and I think Anusa maybe mentioned in our corn board meeting that that's being waived. Don't hold me, that is just off the top of my head, but they are looking into ways to get out from that fee if I'm correct. And I'll look into that.
Is this the Department of Finance Administration?
Yes.
Looking at fee, and that's, is it a certain percentage, John?
I don't remember 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
3%.
Yeah,
Not, it's DFA, not part of that.
Correct.
DFA. Yeah.
So then once those are taken out, that transfer to the board was at $3,361,613 at almost 3,000 in other income, and total revenue for the year came to $3,364,575. Now for what we spent, our total expenses were $3,618,053. And most of that was spent on research. And the rest was spent on promotion and board costs. So where did we end up? That brings our ending fund balance to $9,512,281. Some of that money is still obligated, with $4,460,960 already promised to projects that the board has approved. Most of that is research we're already paying for over several years. So this leaves the board with $5,051,321 left over. That's money that can be used on brand new projects, and this is also where our fiscal year 2027 budget begins. And if you turn the page to the annual collections, this is where the budget is actually built. We use the USDA crop numbers and the information you all give us in this board meeting to build that budget. And if anything looks off, just tell me and I'll let Anusa and his team know and we'll adjust it. The page after that shows our collection history from fiscal year 2015 through fiscal year 2026. There's a number called the maximum gross collections. That is the most we could ever collect if every single dollar came in. For this year, that ceiling was at $7,491,550, and we've collected 95% of that as of June 30th. And that's right in line with what we normally see this time of year. Then the graph just shows our actual collections next to the maximum line over time. And that was my fast and furious financial report, and I'll do my best to answer your questions.
Let's ask Jeremy what our final acres planted was.
USDA has it estimated 3.2, maybe a little bit more than that,
What was it last year?
2.6.
Back up to, what's the highest we've been in the last 5-10 years that you recall?
We got up to 33, there for a while, but it's been really volatile the last 10 years because of environmental conditions, 2019 and 2019 was the lowest we'd ever seen, that was just due to environmental conditions, just couldn't get it planted, but last year was probably it was pretty close to setting a record for the last few years on being the lowest.
Do you feel like NASA's been pretty accurate with their reporting?
Pretty close. Yeah, if you look at it, the FSA numbers, they're within a couple of percentages, so. But there's a lot of beans up there.
So, Todd, do you mind, do you work interactive with NASA on that report or?
No, sorry, I really said.
Okay. Your reporting is done from what we can bring in and certify with you. Okay. I guess there's always a little bit of a difference between the two. And I think NASA is trying to be more accurate in there.
Well, you have to remember NASA is just a survey. It's, they send out surveys for farmers and sometimes they fill them out, sometimes they don't.
So it's based solely on the survey?
Correct.
Yeah. No real time.
Wow. And so that's why FSA numbers are a little bit more accurate because those are actual certified and farmers go in and do certify those acres.
Participation is at an all-time low, and Brooke, they just had a knockdown fight over that. And so I think that's to go to more FSA, acreage is what they're looking at.
Yeah. And I apologize, maybe we should go around the room. We're a little bit smaller crowd this morning, but y'all want to just, the visitors that are in the room, want to introduce yourself? Sure.
Thank you, Andrew Grubmeyer. I'm with the Agricultural Council of Arkansas here in Little Rock.
Shane Gadberry with the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture.
Jeremy Ross, Soybean agronomist, University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture.
Hannah Phillips, the communications group.
Lee Savannah, the communications group.
Carson Horn Communications Group.
Ty Davis, Arkansas FSA State Director.
Joshua Mullinax, Senator Bozeman's State Ag Liaison.
And
I'm Bailey Downey. I'm the board administrator for corn.
Caleb Allen, Board Administrator for Soybean and Wheat.
Mike Stage, Department of Ag. John Freeman, Board Member Dennis.
Matt Robertson, board member, Cross County.
Brad Doyle, board member, Poinsett County.
West Higginbotham, board member, Lee County.
BJ Rogers, Board Member, Prairie County.
Boyce Johnson, farmer, Crittenden County.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I just make another couple of comments? Sure. So USDA in the last 5 or 6 years have really decreased the number of reports that they do. So they no longer do county reports as of 2 years ago. So I relied on that data, during meetings and looking at different counties and different things like that. And then they no longer do the weekly updates that they used to do. And so, I've really been more relying on FSA numbers. I have in the past, but there's a little bit more information in those USDA numbers now, as everything's probably gonna go to FSA. And me and Jared Harkey do the same thing, and so, just because USDA has really cut back on the number of reports and information that they're providing for. I think the FSA numbers are probably more accurate and reflect what's in the state. Plus, the prices have been going up, made a jump yesterday, day before yesterday, so hopefully prices will continue to go up.
We just finished our acreage reporting last, so I don't have the actual number for you today. So just in case you're about to ask that.
Matt's online, correct, Matt Smith? Oh, Matt, if you want to say hello or not.
Yep, I'm here. Matt Smith, board member, Mississippi County.
I was at a meeting last week at University of Maryland with NASA Acres. About 150 university researchers that are all into the geo, measurements with the satellites. The head of NASA Earth was there, and I think they're gonna release the most recent Landsat satellite in 2031 with even more capabilities, but a lot of the conversation, and I was on a panel and I called out NAS. And then afterwards, got in the back, said, hey, I'm here with Matt. But anyway, it was a really good conversation because the first thing he asked was, of the farmers in the group, who all fills out the survey? Or what happens with the survey? And the first lady yelled out from Texas, farmers throw them in the trash. It's the first thing she said. And he didn't take to that very kindly, but there was another one or two who said the very same thing. USGS was also in the room. And anyway, there is a conversation on how these experts think they can more accurately determine acres based off satellite imagery. And they're going even way further into yield estimation. Even nitrogen, carbon, there's some water, there's a lot of things they're planning on. Well, this with what drones can do at a lower level. They're trying to make that more capable, more available through satellites in the near future. Two different government entities, I don't know, the survey thing just does seem kind of a little bit outdated. And but hey, at the end of the day, soybean acres are up, and hopefully this board will be able to have more access to funding through that. So any other comments on Caleb's report of the budget? Yes, so far good. Okay,
Can I get a motion to approve that?
absolutely. Do we hear entertain a motion to approve the budget update?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So first up, if we're still on schedule, we will allow the communication group to go forward. And if anybody wants to grab a cup of coffee, I think that it's something.
I know Brad needs some coffee. I heard he's had a late night getting in from Indianapolis. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carson Horn with the Communications Group, Public Relations Director, your account executive on this account. With me today, just a few updates. Hannah Phillips, who is integral to your account as well, and also Lisa Van Hook. She is our president since 2024. We also have with us on the call today, Dane Cowling, and quick update on the agency stuff. One of our original founders, Dan Cowling, Dane's brother, has recently rolled into retirement. So Lisa and Dane are now the two primary shareholders of the agency. So just so you kind of know what's going on there. Couple of other quick updates for you. I did want to share with you guys, last September, almost a year ago, we did enter some of your programs into our local PRSA chapter for the Prism Awards. You guys won 2 of those awards last year. We finally got the awards actually in hand. So we wanted to share that with you today. So one of those is for your Field to Field series. That's an award-winning program that you have. I believe it's won some awards before. You also have for Hannah's work, some of you may know or have even seen her on KATV throughout the year, doing some promotion for you guys. So that also won an award as well as the influencer program. So one of the other things that we have over there, please grab one when you get an opportunity. Arkansas Business dedicated an entire edition to you guys in recognition of the milestone that we're celebrating this year, which is your soybean centennial here in Arkansas. So really good feature in there. I believe John's in there. We've got some other board members and stuff that are featured in that. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. Moving on from that, I will walk us through this very quickly. I know we only have a few minutes trying to keep this brief. So Caleb, I think about 2 or 3 slides in. One more. I've got kind of a highlight reel for y'all. Just keep it brief. Oh, you can go back one for me if you don't care. So we can run through this, then I won't bother with the numbers, but we can certainly stop on anything if y'all have any questions. But this really kicking off in January of this year, running through the end of this year, but we kind of worked a little bit ahead and started last soybean month in November. We kind of did a soft launch of your soybean centennial celebration kickoff. That's been going really, really well. You will see in the numbers here how that has turned out for us, and it's by far exceeded our expectations. To kind of spell that out for you, we've seen 2 to 3 times increases across the board almost in our measurement, our metrics that we follow for you guys as far as exposure and promotion. So we're really happy with that. One of the best years probably that we've had. That has received some national media attention. The Arkansas Business Edition over there is kind of part of that with the state and national industry leadership. We've seen a lot of that throughout the last 6 months, especially. We've had statewide audience engagement in our celebration. We'll talk about some of the ways that we've managed to do that. And then also we've been able to secure multiple permanent fixtures here in the state commemorating y'all's milestone. Also kind of promoting the industry's legacy here in Arkansas as one of the main drivers for Arkansas's top economic industry, which is agriculture. So we're really proud of that. So we'll go through some of this fairly quickly. Stop me if you have any questions, but we really wanted to spend a bulk of our time talking about some of that centennial stuff. So we'll kind of go into that stuff. So as we go through our advertising section here, we ran a couple more campaigns than we typically do, including the Soytennial, as we called it. We ran a soybean month. We also did some Grow for the Green promotion to support their efforts there. And then last, I want to say it was in August of last year, we also did, we had a presence at the Ag Media Summit. It was at Rogers. It kind of traveled around the country and stuff, and we took advantage of it being here. So we were actually in a conference with all of the ag media across the country in one spot, and we were able to target them with some digital promotion. But we also had a portion of your soybean
centennial exhibit at the conference. We managed to have that there, and we generated a lot of interest from the media there. That actually resulted in some coverage. So the Centennial campaign, that's actually been driving some unprecedented traffic and interest. And based off of y'all's direction, which has been really great, wanted us to kind of shift focus off of those consumer goods, because we do have that consumer audience that we try to speak to. We're shifting off of the consumer side, and we're focusing more on soy's role in livestock and poultry nutrition. And that's working out really well for us. We actually gave you guys kind of a sample run of how that was performing, I think this time last year. And we saw that it was working really good. So we kind of spun off of that and leaned into it, and we're seeing really good numbers. So you can see here, just off of this number, 5 million compared to less than 1 million last year. So we're doing great. We're doing great. Next, I believe we have a radio spot that we worked on with Doug Hartz, again, in celebration of this Soytennial. So what you see here is the grandson of the founder or the father of the soybean industry here in Arkansas. We have the grandson talking about that legacy on air and sharing that story. So we've been running that since February, and it's been doing great. We're going to keep that rolling through the end of the year as part of the celebration. So it's done really good. Bad thing about radio, can't really measure some of that stuff, but we feel like it's well worth it and has really laid some good connection groundwork for us with our audiences. Also, I want to say a special congratulations to our chairman, who was featured as Arkansas's 250 on the 250 list, not last year, but also we just found out this year as well. We went ahead and commemorated that with an ad in their magazine as well. So we're really proud of him being able to feature that. The great thing about this is we don't just get an ad, or we don't just get the feature, of course, because we're using you as the face, right? To get some exposure for the board, but this turns into multiple opportunities for us to leverage. So you'll see this pop up on social media, different things like that. So that rolls us into digital. We're doing, again, really good there. I won't bore you with all that, but what you can see here is that we had about 7,000 engagements over the past year compared to about 2.5 last year. So we're doing really good there. Some of the stuff driving the highest engagement for us is going to be that Grow for the Green stuff. We've actually kind of taken a different approach where we're featuring the winners of that contest, and it's become very popular. People like to see their neighbors, their friends on that, and so we get a lot of engagement from that. Also, sad in a way to say this, but reassuring in the same way, we did run a memorial for Donald. And he actually is still continuing to serve the board in this capacity by promoting that. So want you to know on a personal note from us, the agency, just thoughts with the board, his family, and everything. We have some ideas that we want to share with you guys as well to continue to honor him. As we go through here, the miraclebean.com, your website, it's doing very, very well. Arkansas Soybean Month drove a lot of traffic that way. Paid social as well is a driver for that. So that's why we do part of that advertising. If you have a website sitting out there, nobody's looking for it or knows how to get to it, it's just going to sit there. It's not going to do any good. That's why we do the paid social, because it drives all that traffic there. As I mentioned earlier, the Grow for the Green promotion that we're doing that's helping drive a lot of that traffic. We've actually incorporated that into your Field to Film series as well. So we're taking some of those top winners of the contest and featuring them rather than some other things that we've done in the past. Kind of switches things up a little bit, gives us some fresh content, and we get to hear from the people out in the field making all this stuff work. So there's his video right there, actually. On that note, we've got your 3 most popular videos right now. We've got Chance Creighton, I believe I should have put there, he's a consultant, I believe. We've got Mr. Perry here, and then Monica's really cool. We worked with her with y'all's exhibit. She is the director of the plantation. So she's getting a lot of stuff out there as well. So we're doing really good there. I think this rolls us into public relations. No, we got one more bean brief. Bean brief is one area I'm going to pay a little more attention to this coming year, because when I said that we had increases across the board, this was kind of our problem child. And I say that lightly because it's not that we went backwards in any way, but we kind of, I don't want to use the word stagnant, but we were steady is how I'm choosing to say that. So we had some ups and downs in our subscriber, but we ended up pretty much net zero on that for the most part. Our open rate, although down a little bit, is well above industry averages. So we're doing great there. Click rate is pretty much on par with industry. So we feel good about that, but we want to see that audience continue to grow and tap into some things. You can see what our top 3 issues were. Again, we are finding that the local soybean news is driving a lot of the interest. One of the big wins that we had this year was, of course, honoring Jim Carroll with his induction into the Arkansas Ag Hall of Fame. So we were proud to see that. We also made some, announcements about our new leadership on the board. And then, Brad, this was your farm, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have another group coming in just a couple of weeks, if anybody wants to join me there from, I think it's a South American group.
Yeah,
From
send us that
from
information.
USAID.
if you were. Yeah, we'd love to feature that. So we're doing good on there. I think that will roll us into public relations. And what I'll just tell you here is that we've gotten so much good coverage lately, and you can tell that from the numbers. We've almost doubled what we had last year. Which, when you think about it, with the limited media that we have in Arkansas, that's kind of hard to do, but we're doing it. So, and we're not just limiting ourselves to Arkansas right now, especially with this platform that we're using with the Centennial. We've been able to get national and some industry coverage of that. So our top story, soybean month, soybean science challenge. And the reason we're so successful on that, I'll give credit to Hannah. She does a lot of great work, not just featuring the contest as a whole. She sends stuff out to each of those kids' individual schools, to their towns. She even features the teachers and stuff. So we get a lot of mileage off of that. And then of course, Jim Carroll. So some good stuff there. We attended a total of 17 different events for you guys, including just this week. We had Hannah joining our folks up there, Brad and Robert. Thank you. I always want to call him something else. Robert Better. We have him up there. Have you guys up there at USB for Indianapolis? And did you guys have anything to report on that?
I will. I'll
Okay.
follow up.
We'll leave that to you, but we had a really robust event schedule, and we have just as good a one, the next slide, I think, coming up for this here. So you can see there all the cool stuff. So that's really cool. We'll roll in now to the Centennial campaign. As I've mentioned a couple times, I wish I had a better picture for you. This was kind of grainy, but this was at the Plantation Museum, and we brought the Centennial and the industry to life as a temporary exhibit. This happened in when was that, Hannah? Was that in November?
Yes. I believe so.
So we had, no, that's not right. We had it in spring. It came up in the spring for Blossom Festival and it ran through November, excuse me. So we had that, it was really cool. It's actually, we didn't just leave it there. We ended up developing a traveling schedule where it has visited multiple different museums across the state, including the Grand Prairie Museum. We've got it going to the Texarkana 4 States Fairgrounds. And then it'll actually be ending up later this year at the state capitol in their museum. And as it happens, it's not only America 250, it's not just Soytennial, it's also USB's 35th anniversary. And we've actually invited them. The way it works at the Capitol, there's like 4 corners, and you have an exhibit in each one. We've offered a corner to USB as well, so they're actually going to participate with that. And I think we're going to actually be able to get them down here to kind of open that exhibit and stuff.
Would we be invited to that? Would that
Oh,
be
of course.
something that we could
Yeah, we'll send out a notice to you guys.
meet up, have them?
Yeah, we will definitely keep you. We would love to have you guys there. And then it actually is going to be returning at the end of this schedule to the Grand Prairie Museum as a permanent exhibit there. So where it all started, it's going to go over there. Yeah, it's really cool. So this wasn't like something that we invested in and then it's, we had it and it goes away. This is like a permanent living thing. So that's created some statewide access and everything. It's gonna have a permanent home. And the cool thing about this is that we actually have a virtual companion of this on the website. So you can actually go tour the exhibit online and it'll live there as well. So we've got some really cool stuff. So if you can't go physically visit it, you can always go online. This is what we're probably most excited about. We did receive a grant from USB to do a mural. The folks that actually designed this concept are on the call today. So Dane, one of our founders, our creative director. We also have Brian Wolf, who is our art director, and Leslie Reed, also one of our art directors, who has been integral in helping with this. And one of the biggest things that we're proud to talk about today is that we have found a location. Hopefully, guys, you love this. I know you've already probably seen it.
We have not seen it.
You've not
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I thought you had. My apologies.
Cool, huh? Yeah, it's cool. Any comments?
we love it because we've got multi-generational story happening here. We've got all the different growing, seasons and stuff throughout. And by Jeremy Ross's request, we do have the 4 on.
It is open like it's shattering. That's the only negative thing that I hate that, right?
So, on the next slide. This is the location and it took us up until a couple weeks ago to zero in on this, and we're glad that
This is just
this is a mock-up.
a mock-up.
Yeah, this is not
It's
happening.
not
This is
real.
not happening. But this is what it will look like. This is actually the Public Works building that butts up right on the interstate downtown. So if you're going to downtown from here, you can see this from so far away. We moved offices, we were downtown, we're over in Riverdale now, and I actually, muscle memory, I guess, led me downtown, and I went the wrong way. And for the first time, I took notice of this building, because I knew that it was happening, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how perfect that is, you can see it from miles, it's great. So everybody coming in and out of Little Rock is gonna see this mural, it's a 30 by 30 mural, 890 square feet, nothing but soybean.
Just a reminder, this was a free to us grant that Carson and company applied for, so we're zero in, right? I mean, for the most part.
For the most part.
For the most
For the
part.
most part. So yeah, we're super excited about this. Now, I do want you to take out your phones and mark your calendar right now, because the morning of Friday, November 13th, which happens to be in soybean month, is when we're hoping to unveil or dedicate this mural. We're hoping, and Caleb, this is something I need to work with you on. We would love to get like the governor, Secretary Ward out there, and make a big deal about this. So we're very excited. We are currently in negotiations with an artist. His name is, Boyd. Remind me his first name. Joel Boyd. You may know of him. He has painted several, agricultural and organic based murals across Arkansas. He's great for this. I will tell you, we're in negotiation with him. So it may or may not be here, but we are.
The location has been
The
approved.
location is approved. We've site visited, we have contact from the governor's office. They love it. They love the idea of it. So it's great.
Any comments?
I have one,
Yeah,
if that's all right.
Absolutely.
I like the multi-generational deal, but, I was wondering, is it just a father-son, or could there be grandkids too? Like, I think that might evoke a little bit more.
Yeah.
emotion.
I agree with you. And it's certainly, it's still kind of in the concept phase. I would say we're very much zeroed in on finalizing. That's why we're sharing it with you guys today. If you had any last minute feedback on this.
Like a boy and girl specifically might draw more interest.
I agree.
Holding a daughter, or something, or a couple kids.
2 kids, boy and a girl.
Mhm. Yeah,
The other thing I was gonna say is how many people that don't know what soybeans are gonna know what that is from looking at it.
that's why, and you can't really tell from there, but that's why we added this. This was not originally there, but it says soybeans on there. It says celebrating soybeans in
I
Arkansas.
don't know if that could be larger, so.
We might
But
need
make
to
it pop a
do
little
that.
more visually.
So, and, yeah,
You can see the miracle being pretty good, but there's still people are gonna say, was that green beans or what,
Right.
you don't know what that is, so.
yeah, that's totally true. One detail that we thought was really cool, thank you. We actually have the flower in there as well. We thought that was kind of a cool detail. But yeah. But Brian, who designed this, he's on this call right now listening. I don't know if Brian and Dane, if y'all want to share, or talk, make any comments about this, feel free to do that. But he's hearing all of this. Yes, sir.
Tell them to put one drop of soybean oil in paint, and then you can be soy-based
There
paint.
you go. Great idea.
Didn't have to fill up your tank. I know there's only so much you can put in it.
Yeah, that is the challenge, is giving it depth, but also keeping it simple enough to, tell the story that you want to tell and make it good stuff. But Brian has heard all of this, and we'll definitely follow up with him and see what we can do. I love the addition of a child in there.
Matt, can you see this online?
He said, yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, we'll look at seeing if that needs to be bigger and stuff. One of the ideas, this was actually Lisa's suggestion, I think a great one. Again, on how to honor Donald and involve maybe his family, is that if the board so chose to do so, maybe dedicating this mural to him, potentially, in a way, that having his family there to present them with maybe a print of the mural or something like that. That's your option, but it's a thought. If nothing else, inviting them to be a part of this, so, but we've also figured out some ways, again, not just to put a mural on the wall, there's other things that we can do with this. So if we move forward, this is actually where it's located, the right here along 630. It will face this way. And as you can see, it's right there. It's right there. So it's great. But on the next slide, it's on the last slide, sorry. We have been asked to provide some new board shirts and everything. We do have some other color options in this one. If y'all feel really strongly about that, we thought that was the best option though. But if y'all like these, there will actually be a box shipped to your house with these 3 items, as well as other, little starter kit, soybean board stuff that we've got for you guys.
And you've got all of our sizes.
You have all your sizes.
I just felt like it was important for us. I never got a blue shirt. The blue shirt I'm wearing in the photo was photoshopped on. Yeah, never did anyway, but we attend a lot of meetings. And just a simple logo like Mike's got and you run into somebody, hey, what's that all about, or whatever, you know, and I want Caleb to make sure whoever staff wise, if y'all, attend meetings on our behalf, you need to have some of this. I would even say, Hannah, you probably need something, it's a conversation starter. It's nobody, so.
So, if everybody likes these, you should, in the next, very soon, be getting a box full of stuff. Okay.
Secretary Ward should have one too, he's going overseas.
Have a second.
Yeah.
By special, I'm sorry, yeah, by special request, I think this was John's idea, he wanted a 250, we've actually kind of double dipped on this. So not only are we celebrating 250 with our own logo treatment of that, we're popping the mural on the back, so you get double dip, you get Centennial and you get 250 on one shirt. So we'll have these available to you guys early. But we'd also probably print some extras to have during like soybean month and stuff when we do the unveiling, get out. For sure. So with that, that's our report. I probably took up more time than I should have, but
That's okay.
I don't know if this, the historical office should, those certified, these, those, the money goes on this, only should be that.
Did you have a question, Caleb?
No, or just in case y'all wanted to see something again, I was gonna keep the PowerPoint up.
So we were thinking, what, you wanna ask a question again?
I like those T-shirts. I didn't know if they could be sold and the money go towards the scholarship deal. I mean, I think a lot of folks would like to have that shirt. Yeah. Okay.
Have we ever sold anything on the website?
That'd be weird. Or
We could have a donation, these are the questions we're asking, a donation button on the website to donate towards the scholarship.
To be put on the board's website.
I can sell the hell up. I can say the hell up.
I just wanted a way for people to get access to that shirt. That's what I'm thinking. Not for us to make money,
And
but.
this year's halfway over, right? We need to move pretty quick.
What if you gave some to like some of these FAA kids and stuff at some of their things, or 4-H or stuff like that? I don't know.
And that might be too difficult for it, or size. But
Well,
really, sure.
It is.
we like it.
A couple questions, any other comments or questions?
I'd make a comment. I love the logo, the red, white, and blue. That's perfect. On the state, there, just a suggestion, move the wording in the lower right hand up to the upper right.
Okay.
You get better contrast. You've got a big dark blue spot there.
Yeah.
That it may show up better, or, make Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an artist, but
No, that's
that
great.
just kind of looks to me like it's really hard to see on those beans.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
something like that, but, yeah, that would be the only other thing. Then I'd love to see that on cap. I'd
We can do caps too.
wear that cap right there. If we're gonna sell merch,
White hat.
there you go.
Yeah.
Might do, if we're gonna do
We should
Sure.
start competing with our Rice guys. Every time we sit up next to them at Farm and Gym, they got all their apparel laying.
There you go. there you go.
All right.
And I know it's part of our duty, we represent our neighbors and farmers and maybe even have some extras for us to take and hand out or whatever, as you know. I do have a couple.
Yes.
We don't do a lot with the Poultry Federation / poultry industry here in Arkansas. I met, yesterday morning, Brooke Jasick. I don't know if you guys know her. Do y'all know Brooke Shane or she's a poultry nutritionist at Fayetteville, but she works for United Soybean Board. Got her PhD at Fayetteville. I'll give you her contact. I think there's ways we can interact with poultry, even Blake Rollins. I mean, I'd love to have seriously a chicken and rice cook off or something. You could do rice, soybean and poultry together. I love chicken and rice. I guess I'm a little biased, but
There was actually an event we were looking at,
I think there's one later this year in the fall, I've been wrong.
Yeah,
I just think we're missing an opportunity because livestock, and especially poultry industry is our biggest, healthiest customer. Why are we not doing more with them? That would be set, and I think you could probably capitalize it, which you said you are on the website, more of that. You know, you can show poultry farms and maybe them feed, what I use to feed, you can kind of have some explain that. And then also I'd like to see maybe where do our soybeans go, or how do our soybeans get to market?
yes.
And you could do, Caleb got a phone call from a student, we're gonna have a call, but us from the field on a truck to a grain bin or to an elevator, to a river port, to a barge, loading it down, and how it's loaded down at New Orleans. And I've got another topic I'd like to discuss. I think there's an opportunity, if we've ever traveled or have the opportunity to travel, that would be cool to have a board meeting down in New Orleans and do report. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, one thing that we've discussed, I think Anna has really pushed this idea a lot, is actually featuring the board members more. On some of our videos that we're doing and stuff like that, getting you guys, you're the farmers out there, you're the leaders of the industry and stuff. And you're probably the group doing some of the most innovative things and stuff. So we'd love, if any of y'all are willing, before we get out of here today, just let us know or text us or email us, whatever. Let us know you would be willing to do that, because we'd love to come and feature you guys if we can do that. We were recently just at John's place with his son Jack, featuring some of the stuff that he does and stuff. So we'd love to get more of that. I think it's some of our most popular content.
All right, I think anything final, I think we're running behind here a little bit, so thank you for the update, Carson.
You bet.
And so next up, we have, do we have Wish update with Emma Brockman on Zoom?
Hello.
Hello, well.
How are
Floor is
you?
yours.
How are you guys doing today?
Been good, thank you.
Good. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
And today we're giving updates, there's no ask or anything, I just want to go in a little more detail with these organizations we report. Thank you.
Sure. And so I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Emma Brockman, and I am fairly new to the Wish team. Actually, I started, excuse me, back in April, although I did kind of come from the soybean industry, having worked for the Illinois Soybean Association in my previous job. So I'm still very familiar with QSSBs, and I've really enjoyed kind of getting to serve as the caveat between the two now as I move into this next role with Wish. And so I hope that you guys are maybe a little bit familiar with WISH programming and what we do, but a lot of our work is in those developing countries, thinking of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And so obviously doing the work to build the soybean industry. We are a trade organization, not an aid organization, although a lot of our work does have to do with things like food security and building demand in those developing markets. So looking at the livestock, aquaculture, and food industries. So our priorities do lie within building up those markets. And we have a market development continuum that we kind of look at and use internally for entering into those markets. So starting off and, you go into the markets that have no idea what soy is or no idea how to use it. And so we have to start with that first exposure and really just teaching them what it is or how they could use it. And then moving along the continuum and helping them to explore, adopt, and integrate soy into their markets or into their industries, really working to grow that long-term demand. That's something I'm very passionate about, of really looking further ahead. So it's tough, for you guys as farmers to think about. It's a little bit slower of a return on investment, but eventually, we will get there, and really to diversify those markets is really important. So that does come with a lot of challenges. We're working in countries that have difficulties with their infrastructure, they're price sensitive, and like I said, they just don't have the awareness of US soy. And so we have to really hold their hand through a lot of those steps and processes to help get them to use soy in their daily life, whether that be food or feed, and then to help them through the buying process or obtaining financing and things like that. And then quickly getting into our report. So we just wrapped up our quarter 3 for fiscal year 26 with funding that we get from you guys and from other QSSBs that we're very, very thankful for. We are able to work across the world in countries like what you see here. So this is our Asian market focus. So looking at Cambodia, Laos, and Sri Lanka on the Southeast Asian side, we are in the process of transitioning Sri Lanka to USEC, as that market has really grown within the last couple of years. And, thanks to a lot of WISH programming, we've been able to see them go from some of that earlier stage market development to getting to be a WISH market, or getting to be a USEC market now, excuse me. And then something that we're very excited about is getting into the Stan region, the Caucasus region. So that's what you see up kind of in the center of the screen. So you think of all the Stan region, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, so on and so forth. And then the the Caucasus region being Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. So those are a lot of new markets for us. And so we're working to build into that Central Asian region, which is really interesting for us. And that comes with a lot of market exploration and in market assessments that we've been doing. So Tate Jeffries, who is our program manager for the Asia division, you'll see him, he's on the left of this picture here. He's really been doing a lot of work. He's been a one-man show for the last couple of months, and we're working to onboard a new director for the region. So we're very excited to get him on board. He comes with a lot of FAS background, and so he's very familiar with the Asian region. So we're very excited for that. But there's been a lot of work happening in Central Asia to really get into that Trans-Caspian region. They come with about 1% of, or US has about 1% market share there. And so it's really working to build up. And so that comes with those market assessments. What we do with those is going into the markets and seeing what are possibilities there and trying to build that up. And so throughout the first 3 quarters, we have signed an MOU with Uzbekistan. They're very enthusiastic about buying US soy. And so sometimes we kind of have to put the brakes on them to give them a little bit of a reality check for what they're able to do and help them to slowly get integrated into the US market. But they're very enthusiastic. And so that's a really bright spot within the region. And then we're currently in the midst of trade team season. So we took we took a team to the U.S. Identity Preserved Alliance Summit in Taiwan earlier this spring. The Kansas State International Grains Program happened April, I believe that was. And then the Northern Crops Institute and Essential Amino Acid trade teams also just wrapped up earlier this summer. And so there has been a lot happening, whether that be our regional or our technical assistants and regional and directors that are in country and working to get out in the field with feed millers and other stakeholders, or whether that be our St. Louis staff bringing trade teams to the US or going over there with farmer trade teams too, and really trying to explore those markets. It's been a challenge to get into Central Asia just because of all that's happening within Iran at the moment, but we're still continuing that work, whether that be online or with those assistants there in person. So there's been a lot happening and a lot of potential. It just is it's on the earlier side of that entry. And then next I want to look at Africa. So within Africa, we have priority countries that are highlighted in orange, and that's where most of our programming is going to take place. But then from there, we can kind of use those countries as a hub to bring in people from the other regions, which are, or other countries, which are shaded in that darker blue. And so if we have programming in East Africa, if we're in Tanzania, if we're in Kenya, and we have other partners coming from Ethiopia or Zimbabwe, we can bring a lot of different people in to those kind of regional hubs for us. I think Africa is on a different side of the market development continuum than what Central Asia might be. So where in Asia, we're really focused in on that exploration. In Africa, we kind of have laid the groundwork for developing some of those relationships. And so it's really now working to expand their education, primarily within poultry and aquaculture, and helping them get the training that they need to uh, to start utilizing soy. One of the programs that I've really seen a lot of potential with is, I believe this is one in Kenya, and it's looking at one of their lakes that a lot of aquaculture is produced in. And they have low water quality there, and so one of the programs that we fund is then working to identify those water quality issues and help them to improve this, because you can't feed dead fish soy. So obviously we are trying to help them learn how to better produce their aquaculture, better produce their poultry, so that we can increase or we can grow those industries and help them to eat more soy, get more soy out there. A couple of numbers that I did just want to highlight from Africa is we've seen a lot of training happening. In Q1, there were 25 Nigerians sent to an aquaculture training, 20 aquaculture professionals sent to a conference in Ghana to learn. And then, like I said, right now we're in the midst of trade team season. And so this is a lot of trainings happening, whether, again, our directors are we've sent directors, farmer leaders to a recent conference in Nigeria that was really successful, or another one in Morocco that we were a part of with the U.S. Grains Council, but then also bringing a lot of them here and having that engagement back in the U.S. And so really doing a lot of engagement across the region and really improving those relationships. And then next, I just wanted to highlight then our Latin America region. So this is a little bit smaller for us, and actually this is one market that's working to be transitioned to USEC. Again, we've seen a lot of growth in the programming that we've done specifically on the food sector. And so as we work to improve those relationships and kind of work through our transition plan with USEC, that's been one that we've worked very closely with. And so a lot of this work within the food sector is helping them to innovate and better utilize soy ingredients. So that starts with technical assistance and really working within the university level. So not only are we going there to universities and helping them to find better ways to incorporate soy within their diets, but then also bringing them to the United States and helping them learn through a course through Purdue that was held earlier this spring. Today's Dietitian Symposium was another one held in Orlando in soy, was held just a couple of months ago. And then we've also done a lot of meetings to connect buyers with exporters, some of those being with ADM and Bunge. So really working on some of those larger groups as well and helping that region to grow. And then as I continue, trying to move quickly through this, I know I only have a few minutes, but we're continuing to try and build out our data collection and focus on the real return on investment. You know, that's what you guys as farmers really want to know and want to learn about is how we're taking your checkoff dollars and the funding that you give us and turn that into real sales, real exports. And so these are just some simple numbers that we use internally to, you know, track and make sure that after each one of these programmings takes place, that we are not only building a strong relationship, but the programming that we're doing is actually teaching somebody and they're actually going to walk away from that education and hopefully apply that into their industry, into their own businesses as well. So we're seeing a lot of great work happening. It just takes a lot of time. And then we can look ahead through the rest of the summer and through Q4 of 26 as we close out here at the end of September. So again, we're working through a really busy trade season this summer. We've brought a lot of teams over to the US and we're continuing that through Soy Connect, World Dairy Expo, where we'll bring Central Asian dairy producers from like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to the World Dairy Expo, which is held in Wisconsin. IFT First is coming up, and then continuing that transition plan with some of those countries to USEC. So a lot is happening, and I know I kind of ran through that quickly, so I'm happy to take any questions too, or go a little bit further in depth. But I just wanted to give you guys a very high level overview of the work that we've done over the past 3 quarters with Wish. But I will be sending out the Q3 report here within the next couple of days, and hopefully you guys will get access to that to read a little bit further in depth of some of the numbers that I wasn't able to read off today too.
Any questions or comments? I know one of very interesting, I went to Cambodia a couple of years ago and the fish they were feeding, they were using rice bran, rice hull, anything that could get their hands as a feedstock they were using, which wasn't very efficient. And that's what this program was dedicated to go in there and train them how to use soybeans. So now they are buying soybeans through Vietnam, but US soybean. They don't have a deep water port in Cambodia, so they have to go onto shallow barges and come up the Mekong. But Nigeria is another one, or Ghana is another one. That was a success story. Women were raising chickens for the eggs. They introduced soy into the diet and going from 1 egg to 2 eggs, doubling the capacity or laying capacity. Nigeria has surpassed, or will surpass India as one of the world's largest population in the future. So if we can get in there on the front end, I know there's some issues with financing in some African countries. And even think the further, the deeper you get into Africa, you're having to work with other countries just to get access. But the perimeter is easy because you can come into a port, but a lot of opportunity there. And we would maybe, if there's ever an opportunity for one of our board members to travel to a WISH project, we would be definitely open.
That's very good to know. We're always looking to bring our board members and our farmer leaders to those other countries because I think there's only so much that you can see as you're reading through a paper, obviously. And so to get out and to be in these countries, we're never the kind of organization that's going to stick you in a boardroom and leave you there for a week. We get out and we take you guys to the feed mills and really get you guys on the farms to learn more about what's happening in those countries, but then also how our programming is really affecting these producers. I think you mentioned Cambodia, and we just wrapped up a Food for Progress project there recently, and that one within aquaculture just saw so much growth and really working to build out that industry. I've talked to a lot of farmers that went there a couple of years ago and then recently, and there still has a lot of room to grow, but it's one that we've seen that growth happen and seen the country really develop because of that. Nigeria, like you said, is growing their population. So, we have to get in really early and we have to make sure that US soy has a presence there so that whenever they build out each one of those industries, as they start to get more protein in their diets, that we can be one of the first ones there. And hopefully they have that idea of US soy already in their mind and we don't have to compete as much further if we were to sit back on our heels and just wait for the market to develop on its own.
Thank you very much, Emma. I think there's opportunity. Guatemala, I think our secretary is pretty fond of a working relationship with Guatemala. So, all right, appreciate you, Emma, and we will move on to the next, which would be the Clean Fuels Update Report.
Thank you so much for having me and hope to be in person sometime soon.
Thank you. See, Tom.
Hey,
Tom's
Brad.
on the list. Yes, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Sorry I can't be there in person. I'm at the USB meeting in Indianapolis where I just saw Brad about 10 hours ago. So let me try to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Uh-oh. All right, let's try it again. I apologize.
Technical difficulties?
If we can pull it up for you if you need us
What?
to, Tom.
Yeah, why don't you do that? I apologize, Caleb.
No worries.
Thank you. No, you guys got to get going. So, all right. Well, I got G-Lock on my, so we'll just go ahead. I can appreciate the opportunity to be here. Sorry I can't be there in person. A little bit about me. I'm been with Clean Fuels for 25 years almost. Before that, Missouri Soybean. Been around biodiesel for that long, and it's been fun to see this industry take off, so to speak. So we had, dang it. Well, okay.
You're gonna tell us when?
You got it up there, Caleb? There it is. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we got your first slide up there, the state of the industry.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, the vibe last year was pretty rough with a lot of uncertainty on our federal policies, but that all came clear this year, and now we're really the industry is definitely taken off. Next slide, please. You can see we had a record year in 24, 5.1 billion gallons. Last year was tough at 3.7 billion gallons. This year, with the certain now the renewable fuel standard and the 45Z, we're at we think we're going to hit 6 billion gallons. So we just had record production last month, 500 million gallons. So I remember the days. I remember in 2008 we had 300 million gallons for the total year, and so we're nearly doubling that in 1 month. So next slide. Um, that gives you an idea where the production's at. We got 7 billion gallons total production, 5 for renewable diesel, 2 for biodiesel. You have a couple of biodiesel plants there in your state, Future Fuels in Batesville, Soul Fuel in Helena. I don't know if Soul Fuel's producing, but Future Fuels is. They're not members. We'd love to have them members. Future Fuels quit because they didn't want to pay the dues. So we give them points for honesty. So We were just we had I had the opportunity to host the first year directors for USB down in Norco, Louisiana, Diamond Green, where Brad was at, and they have a 700 million gallon production facility down there, using 10 million pounds of soybean oil a day. So if you do some basic Missouri math, that's almost 10% of the whole soybean oil production in the United States. All right, next. Um, wow, it's really hard for me to see this screen. So,
This is, you see what it is?
oh yeah, the feedstocks.
Feedstock breakdown.
Yeah, the feedstocks you can see soy's always been our number one feedstock. But that's but we also have corn oil from the ethanol plants, used cooking oil, animal fat. But you see soy is ticking up, and it's at 44%. We think it's going to hit 50% this year. Um, the Energy Administration is going to release the figures August 1st. So that 500 million gallons that was produced last year, last month, 96% was domestically produced. A little bit of imports, but most of that, and we'll see how much soybean was used to make that. I think like I said, I think it's going to be ticking up close to 50%. All right, next screen, please. All right, what's that say, Brad?
Soybean oil used for
Yep.
BBD.
Just another, reinforcing the point. We had record, we used 1.4 billion pounds in April. That was our last month. So that you take that out, USDA saying for a year it's about 17 billion pounds of soybean oil used for the entire year. So, we produced 32 billion pounds of soybean oil. So this year our industry is going to probably use over 50% of all the soybean oil used. And I was talking to some crushers up in Minnesota. They were pointing out, it used to be 60% of the beans were exported. Jim Sutter's not on the call, is he? And 40% was domestically used. And now that slipped where 60% of the beans are going to be domestically crushed. Then Jim Sutter and the United Soybean Board are doing a fantastic job of exporting that meal so we can keep the oil and get into our industry. So it's now 60-40 domestic crush, 40% exports. All right, next, Brad or Caleb, please. Okay, please, what's that on that?
Soybean crush.
All right, yeah, soybean crush in since 2023, the soybean crush has expanded 30%. Every one of those expansions and new plant projects will say it's because response to demand of our soybean oil because of our industry. A lot of it going out to California to meet the low carbon fuel standard out there. I don't have anything. We don't, USB tracks this for us. There's not one in Arkansas, but there's fairly close. Dexterham, Louisiana. It's going to be the biggest crushing when they get done with their expansion, biggest crush in the country. Then maybe Carroll, Illinois might catch some of the Northeast Arkansas. So next. Okay,
Impact.
the impact, yes. Okay, I think I just checked AgWeb this morning. Last week I checked it for consolidated grain there in Sherrill. It was, I think, 12.27 a bushel. USB saying StoneX, our friends, the fats and oil traders, StoneX said it adds about 10% to the cash value. I just checked that, the beans, as you all probably very well aware, prices have been going up, and so it's now 12.37. So if you use that figure, it's soybean or biodiesel is adding $1.37 per bushel. But wait, there's more. Next slide. Is that the NOPA slide, Brad? Caleb?
Soybean purchase corn value biofuels are supporting stronger soybean prices.
Yeah, yep, that's it. All right, go to the next one. Okay.
Industry drivers.
What's that?
Industry drivers, federal policy, state.
Okay. Well, NOPA had showed some slides last week at the American Soybean Association meeting in DC showing that their figures that the biofuels industry is adding national average about $1.70 a bushel. So they even have a stronger result on what the industry's helping to do. So, all right, go next to the industry drivers. It's federal, state, and corporate policies. We got first one, the renewable fuel standard. That's where requiring petroleum companies sell so much renewable fuels. Their obligation for 2026 is 5.4 billion. Last year the obligation was 3.3. So we worked with this administration and we worked very closely with American Soybean Association and a lot of our other soybean allies to work with EPA and the administration, Department of Treasury, to get those numbers up. And so we were asking for 5.2 billion. We actually got 5.4. And again, wait, there's more because EPA saying actually the effective obligation for 2026 for the obligated parties like the big oil like Exxon's is altogether is going to be about 6.1 billion, and that's because and there's parts of the renewable fuel standard that ethanol gets apart, advanced fuels gets apart. They can't fill those buckets, but we can. And so EPA is estimating our effective obligation for this year for the biofuels, biodiesel, renewable diesel is going to be 6.1 billion gallons. So that's quite a jump from we produced 3.7 last year to go to, I think, what's such good news when we were so happy to see that 500 million gallons last month is that we're on track. We can meet this. We can meet those obligations, and probably even more of the our American Fuel Petroleum Manufacturers, AFPM, is suing EPA over these numbers. The lawsuit is based that we can't meet the obligation. We cannot produce enough fuel for them to buy. And so these numbers show that we absolutely can. So this is very good news. Next.
Tom, is this the RVO, is that a tax credit and it incentivize the refineries to use more oil? How does that, just if you give me the elevator speech on.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it starts out as basic math, goes into calculus in about 2 seconds. So every gallon biodiesel has a 26 number identification number on it. It's called a RIN identification number. And so, the obligated parties, the petroleum companies, either they generate their own RINs some of them have own renewable diesel plants, like Valero is part owner of the plant down in Louisiana. Or if they don't, then they have to buy the RIN from other people that have them. And so there's a market for it. So right now, that RIN value is over $3. So that is so if I got RINs, I sell them to you, Brad, I get $3 for a gallon. And that goes into that value goes into the supply chain for the industry all the way back down to soybean farmers. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so I mean, it's adding value, keeping the value up for the soybean oil, basically.
Yeah.
That's
The idea of the RINs closes the gap between what the diesel price and what the biodiesel price would be. So it's kind of a shock absorber for the market. So yeah, go ahead. All
Next
right.
slide.
And then we got moving on. Yeah. 45Z, that was part of the big beautiful bill that we had a lot of wins in that. Which we had no idea going in with Trump. Trump 1 was not very good for industry. So we were a little nervous about that. The Republicans, none of them voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which the production 45Z was part. So we didn't know how that was going to shake out, but actually turned out very good. Number one for all of us, especially soybean farmers, is that we got the indirect land use change penalty on soybean out. So 45Z is a carbon-based credit, and the lower the carbon you have, according to how U.S. Treasury scores it through different models, the higher your credit. It can go up to $1 a gallon. So that's the highest you can get. So used cooking oil, they scored that at about 85 cents. Soy was at 30 cents. So with removing that indirect land use penalty, basically saying you're chopping down trees to plant soybeans in the United States, which is not true. So we got that. We worked with ASA and our soy partners to get that removed. That was they were happy. Actually, the Congress was happy to do that. So that brought up the soy score from 30 cents to now it's at 64 cents. And for biodiesel, that's on par with a lot of the other feedstocks. I think used cooking oil is still a little higher, but it really leveled the playing field and a more accurate reflection of the soy score. And it's not finalized yet, but it does have a safe harbor uh, 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 amendment to it, so the industry can trade on that production tax credit. We'll think it final uh, guidance in November. So the other things we got in that was no co-processing. That's a cheat code for big oil to meet the obligations. They wanted to get a tax credit for just dumping bean oil into the refining process and calling it all renewable or biodiesel or SAF, which, it's complicated. There's about a dozen cuts come out of a refinery, and they're saying it's all going to go into that one cut, which is the only way you can check that is through carbon dating, and they didn't want to do that. They were going to cheat, so we stopped that. They're always trying to do that. They can do it if they want. We just didn't think they should get a production credit. Also got a small biodiesel producer tax credit for biodiesel plants using feedstocks like soybean oil because our smaller plants are struggling. And so we were able to get 2 years of that in there. They get 15 cents, 20 cents a gallon for the first 15 million gallons for last year and this year. So it's about $3 million. Small biodiesel plant under 65 million gallons can capture. So a lot of good things in the big beautiful bill for 45Z we got fixed, and we got it through 2029, and we got transferability. So if you don't have a tax liability, you can sell that on a secondary market. All right, next. What do we got, Brad?
California, Oregon, and
Oh
Washington.
yeah, okay, state. Oh, big time. Yeah, California is half our market, and that's being driven by a low carbon fuel standard. They're trying to decarbonize their economy and transportation sectors by different alternative fuels, and 80% of the diesel market in California consists of or renewable or a combination of both. So it's a big, complicated market. They really don't like soy. They really don't like biodiesel. They really don't like combustion engines. They really don't like diesel. They really like electric. So California is reluctant they're slowly bending to reality. They're not going to electrify trains, boats, planes, or big trucks or tractors anytime soon. So I think it's going to continue to be a big factor in our industry. Oregon is about 40%, I think, renewable. They got a low carbon fuel standard. So does Washington. So does New Mexico. They're implementing, and the newest state is Hawaii. That just happened 2 weeks ago. So California has a really anti-ag bias, which we're trying to fight. But well, so far the other states, I think we've been successful to keep that idea of a veg oil cap or sustainability guardrails out of their programs. Next, I apologize. Marine, yeah, we got all kinds of great corporate stories. We got the rail industries going to B30 by 2030 to meet carbon reduction goals. Union Pacific is CSX, Norfolk Southern are all they're all about 9% of their fuel is now biodiesel. The other class ones are slowly come up behind. They all joined Clean Fuels. We love to have them. They're great partners. Marine, a lot of opportunity there. 7 billion gallon market in the U.S. So there's opportunities. We got inland waterways. Great Lakes is using a lot of biodiesel. It gets more complicated on the ocean, but we're working on that. There's opportunity there. And also home heat. That's mostly in the Northeast, 13%. It's a 5 billion gallon market, and we got 13% of that market so far. States like New York and Connecticut have mandates in place. They just went to 10% this past year, going to 20% in the next couple of years. And so that's going to continue to expand. And they do prefer biodiesel. Soy-based biodiesel has the best cold weather properties. So lots of good opportunities. SAF, not going as fast as we'd like. The bad news in the big beautiful bill, they cut their incentive. SAF is more expensive than definitely than jet fuel, even renewable diesel and biodiesel. It takes extra processing, so they have to have airlines to use it has to have a whole big stack of incentives to do it. about 200 million gallon market in the United States. Most of our renewable diesel producers who make SAF are sending it to Europe where there's mandates. So, but you know, that's also a big opportunity for corn ethanol folks too. They can make jet fuel out of alcohol. All right, next. What's
Partners, all the partners.
partners?
Thank you. All the states.
Oh yeah, well, thank you, Arkansas Soybean Promotion Board, for being a longtime member of Clean Fuels. Boyce Johnson is your representative, so Robert Stovall is your alternative. So thank you for supporting, being a member, and being active. Looking forward to continuing to working with you all. We hope you have great growing weather because we need the soybeans because we'd love to turn that oil into fuel. So apologize for the technical difficulties, but thank you for your time. Happy to answer any of your questions.
I just got a quick question for you, Tom. This is Boyce, by the way. I called you the other day, but could you explain and some of the rulings? We don't have a crush facility here in Arkansas, and we don't have an ethanol just yet. So on the carbon credit stuff, how do you have to deliver? Does the farmer have to actually deliver to those facilities? And I know they had two paths on this, but or does that? So let's throw out a scenario like ADM. Can they use that in different parts of the growing region, or does that have to be delivered to that specific plant for us to, as a farmer, to get credit per acre on whether it's soybeans or corn? Could you go into that a little bit?
I'm sorry, Boyce. I don't have information on that. I know what you're talking about. The regenerative ag opportunities.
Yes.
I don't know. I think they're going with book and claim, which I really don't know enough to say. I know it's more opportunity for corn ethanol than it is for soybean biodiesel, I believe. I know
Okay.
corn ethanol, the guys think they can add about 50 cents, 25 to 50 cents back to the producer. I was just talking to a farmer and he didn't see soy having an opportunity for that. I apologize, Boyce, but if you give me a call, I can get you a better answer.
No, I know it's confusing. They had two different paths they were going to take on that, and I had not heard I know which one they took, but I still don't know all the details of it, and that's why I was asking. Surely it'll be coming up, in a meeting here before long, and where we can understand that.
Well, let me see. I can do some digging and get an answer to you, Boyce. I apologize, but yeah, it's I don't think it's finalized yet, but I think you're right. They have.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, as long as the crush margins are at $4, we appreciate all y'all's work because that's been a big benefit to soybean producers.
We did lose him.
Okay,
You lost
that's fine.
Tom.
He's off the Zoom.
Matt, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. From a
Let's see if did we lose him?
Yeah, he's not on the Zoom.
oh, we lost Tom, or you lose me?
Yeah. No, you're live and good.
Darn.
We just want to move on, or
Yeah,
do
it's
you have
fine.
this board, or was it specifically Tom? We'll get you Tom's number.
It's no big deal. It's not very important at all.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll just keep it rolling. Y'all just take a break as needed for y'all.
Okay.
We're gonna move on to USMEF, a new partner. So looking forward to hearing from USMEF.
And John is online.
John, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Can you see, is the screen looking okay for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for letting U.S. Meat Export Federation participate in your meeting today. What I'd like to do is go ahead and provide you a little bit of detail here if my presentation works well. Let's see here. Heidi, I might need a little assistance here with the presentation. Trying to get my screen up. Just give me a minute. She'll be right here. I'm not sure what happened here. Okay. It's frozen up here. Yeah, if you want to share yours. Okay. We're going to share from a different computer. It'll just take a minute.
Sure. You'll have to stop sharing your screen so somebody else can.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe this will work. Okay, are there? Okay, we're good. Can you see the ship now?
Sorry.
Okay, so a little bit about our mission. Those of you that aren't that familiar with the Meat Export Federation, our mission is to basically put U.S. meat on the world's table. We represent the three red meats, and that's beef, pork, and lamb. Our organization started in 1976. We've got 20 international locations around the world, and at any given time, we have 300 members that participate in the U.S. Meat Export Federation. So we're proud to have Arkansas soybean at our table. I think we've got a lot of good things to offer the soybean industry when we talk about adding value-added soybeans and exporting those products around the world. Our organization's much like yours, made up of producers. We're a nonprofit organization. Essentially, our officers and our board of directors are made up of 9 different sectors in agriculture. And if you look at our 4 officers today, you know, we've got corn producers, cattle producers, soybean, pork, beef, lamb. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to add value to the red meat complex, the soybean industry, and the corn industry. Whether we're sending soybeans, you know, assisting with any bulk exports of soybeans, or if we're sending soybeans through red meat. And the reason I say that is Mexico, you know, roughly right now, about half of our hams are being exported outside the United States. And you think about that, Mexico takes the majority of those U.S. hams in fresh combo bins. Every time we send a ham outside the United States, that's about 18 pounds of soybean meal that goes directly into that specific ham. So we're excited about sharing that message. You can see right here in the globe here, this is our global footprint. We are headquartered in Denver, Colorado, and our first international market was in Tokyo, Japan. So ultimately in 50 years, we've expanded around the world, and our footprint has allowed us to diversify our risk. You know, when we started 50 years ago, you know, ultimately, you know, Japan was that key market, but today you can find U.S. red meat products in over 80 countries around the world. What I'd like to share with you is just a snapshot. I know in Arkansas, we're pretty diversified. We've got cattle in that particular market. Majority of what I'm going to talk about today is pork, but just for example, those beef animals that we export January through May, that export market added $435 to those beef animals, those fed steers. So, you know, South Korea is our number 1 market for corn-fed beef. That's worth about $105 per head. Japan's worth 82. Mexico's at 61. So, you know, exports are adding value, and the same with the pork complex. You know, the pork industry, roughly a third of what we raised here domestically is being exported. And what we try to do is put buyer and seller together through a multitude of different ways, trade teams, seminars, so on and so forth. I'll get into a few of those examples in a minute, but Mexico's your number one market for pork. That market's worth $20.55 to a pork animal. So $68 of that pork animal is directly related to the export market. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do as an industry is really diversify our markets. When you look at that other worth $16 in the left-hand corner there, that category has really grown over the years. That used to be about $3. That category concludes Central America. It involves Colombia, South America. These are markets that have really taken off in the last 10 years and responded to U.S. pork exports. And I think the reason why is we've been aggressive. We've had additional dollars to go into these markets. We've added staff. We've really developed these markets due to the assistance of the soybean industry, the assistance of the U.S. government, the assistance of the pork checkoff as well. So when you take a budget and you grow your budget, the market can respond. And we're pretty excited about that from that various standpoint. I also would mention that China, Hong Kong, that market's been up and down over the years. That primarily is a variety meat market. Certainly we're not sending muscle cuts into that particular market. So our muscle cuts have been kind of slowed over the last couple of years just due to some of the geopolitical issues. But really, we've responded tremendously in Mexico, taking a great deal of those variety meats that were once headed to China, and we put different programs into place where we've incorporated variety meats into our marketing campaigns, not only in Mexico, but in other markets such as South America. One example of how we've done that is, our market here domestically. I don't know how many on this call have actually eaten beef liver here in the last 6 months, but what we've been able to do is we've come up with a new product promotion called Nutri-Liver, where we take 55% of beef liver and add 45% pork. And we've got companies making this mixture, and they're really growing the market in markets like Peru and Colombia, where they appreciate the liver market and they like it. And being able to add that pork to that beef liver really kind of cuts that metallic taste that you might have. We've been able to work very closely with the United Soybean Board. We're excited that USB has announced their new CEO, Courtney Knupp. We've got a very good working relationship with Courtney over the years through her involvement with the National Pork Producers Council and the National Pork Board, and most recently the government. So excited for Courtney and the soybean industry. But Jim Douglas, he serves as the U.S. Meat Export Federation's Executive Committee representative. And, certainly Brett Gatton and Matt Gass, you both know them. They've had an opportunity to travel with the U.S. Meat Export Federation this past year. And I would encourage you, I'll be in touch with Caleb on different opportunities for Arkansas to be involved with the Meat Export Federation, maybe through See for Yourself missions, and have some involvement with us in different roles in helping us sell that sustainable U.S. pork around the world. I will say one thing, that when you try to quantify what is the return on investment to the soybean industry, why would you put money into the Meat Export Federation? Certainly you have to have measurables. One of the measurables that we have is through a Dave Juday study. We've been doing this since 2015. And at the end of the day, Mr. Juday says that roughly 100 million bushels of soybeans, 98.8 million bushels in 2025 to be exact, can be attributed just to the U.S. pork industry on those pigs that we export outside of the United States. And it does have a 10.3% impact on a bushel's value. That bushel in 2005, or excuse me, in 2025 was $10.17, thus $1.05 impact on a bushel of soybeans last year. One of the things that we try to do is put different innovative ways to get more product out into the world. We have what we call a Global Innovation Symposium. This is where we bring in different processors from around the world, specifically Latin America. This is where the Nutriliver burger was created. We have a Boston butt burger that you maybe have heard of. That's basically taking the Boston butt and grinding that. That's taken off throughout Latin America. Certainly, there's been opportunities to expand that in markets such as Asia. You can see right here the Global Innovation Symposium here in 2026. We utilize some soybean checkoff dollars to assist with this different program. But at the end of the day, we're looking for unique ways to add value to pork exports. And this is primarily a processing seminar for 2.5 days. They will learn different processing techniques, do different formulas on what might work in their particular market. And this is where the liver burger and the Boston butt burger was invented, is through this. So I can give credit where credit's due. The soybean checkoff has assisted with this. You'll see the National Pork Board now rolling out different Boston butt burger. There's just a really good mixture of fat and lean meat in that Boston butt. It's not taking pork trimmings. It's specifically that Boston butt, that shoulder, and grinding that. So one last thing, I'm going to keep you guys on schedule. I'm going to go through this pretty quick, but we put together a U.S. Red Meat Symposium in 2026. We've also utilized some soybean checkoff dollars to assist with this symposium. This took place in Mexico City, Mexico. And this is a direct result to keep Brazil at bay. Brazil's been very aggressive in this market. We currently have 85% of the market share in Mexico. Canada has a good share. They have mostly the balance, but I will tell you that in response to the COVID, the Mexico president opened up the market duty-free to all other countries. And Brazil got very aggressive in this market with frozen pork. We tried to keep them at bay. We had this Red Meat Symposium 2 years ago in Mexico City. And with this, we invite companies into our camp, into our hotel, and we have what you would call a speed dating situation where we have different companies from the United States that have pork for sale on display in coolers, in chillers, and they'll spend a full day working to sell U.S. pork to those that are interested in buying. I had one company send me a text one morning, even before this event took place. The event took place on a Wednesday. He had sold 33 loads on Monday and 37 truckloads of pork on Tuesday to a customer. And this is new business. So with this event, collectively, those in the room sold 60,000 metric tons of pork in a particular month. 3,300 truckloads, resulting in 400 metric tons of new business sold as a result of this symposium. So these are some of the different ways that we work together with your checkoff dollars. We leverage your checkoff dollars with USDA funding, with the pork industry. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to take one of your dollars and add 3 more to it and capture more markets for U.S. pork, U.S. beef, U.S. lamb. Primarily, the soybean checkoff is geared toward primarily pork promotions. And one last thing I would like to say is, as this organization continues to mature, we are 50 years old this year. We will have our 50th anniversary meeting in Palm Springs, California, November 11th through 13th, 2026. We don't traditionally go to areas like Palm Springs, but when you're having a celebration, this will have a little different look to it. We certainly would hope that Arkansas could send someone to be a part of this, this meeting and kind of see what we're doing, with soybean checkoff dollars. We've got some great speakers coming, but, at the end of the day, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for, entrusting us with your membership dollars and, let us, show you some more opportunities down the road to get engaged with the Meat Export Federation and, at the end of the day, sell some of those sustainable soybeans through, U.S. pork exports. And I think we've got a great story. We've got a great future ahead of us, and we're certainly happy to have, Arkansas as a partner. So with that, I would just want to open that up for some questions if you have some, and we'll kind of go from there.
Questions? Would any of y'all be able to attend that meeting? November 11th and 13th?
Yes, yes.
Okay, 13th, right?
Yep. November
Okay.
11th through 13th, 2026. We'll have, registration information for that meeting on our website, and we'll also be sending that out directly, Caleb, to you, and you can share that with the team as well.
Great if one of our directors could attend, so we'll keep that in mind. And I love seeing US grown. I was in Cambodia once and I was driving, there was a truck that passed us and it was Angus, black Angus certified, which is a US brand. So I know US is the gold standard on meat. When you go to a foreign country, they want to have confidence that if it's US grown, that is the best. So thank you for that update. Any other questions? Appreciate you giving us the update. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and please stay in touch if we can ever answer any questions. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna go to Brianna next with USAC.
USAC update. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Still morning for you all. I'm going to share my screen very quickly and we will.
Brianna, you there?
So excited to give you guys an update on not only the market, but your projects that you all funded for FY26. Starting off with a market update. I'm going to kind of talk about two sets of data. I'm going to talk about our accumulated export data, which is what we have sold on the books up until last week. And then I'm going to talk about our census data, which is shipments that have actually left the U.S. and landed in a country. So when we're looking at whole soybeans for this marketing year, China, as you all may know, entered the market late. Normally they purchase heavily in August, September, October at the beginning of our marketing year. But this year, due to trade tensions, they were delayed in coming into the market. They have met their 12 million metric ton promise that they mentioned they would and that they agreed to for marketing year 25-26. And we see that kind of being exported now. And with China entering the market, we have picked up pace a little bit. So prior to them joining the market again, we were behind pace, but we are still below pace for last year and even the year before that. But we are kind of keeping things to par with the last time we had a trade disruption, like a trade war. But one thing I wanted to point out here is that while China is still incredibly important to the U.S. and we hope that these trade tensions kind of work themselves out, they still will remain our largest market. They've purchased 12 million metric tons. The next highest market is Egypt with just over 4 million metric tons. And so China is still incredibly important. But what I want to point out here is that in the absence of China, so rest of world ROW, so when we take China out of the equation, exports to the rest of the world for whole soybeans are up 8% compared to this time last year. And so we think that is an important number because what it is showing is that as demand is growing, as countries are purchasing US soybeans, or excuse me, soybeans, they're choosing to purchase from the US. And so key markets like Egypt, Mexico are way up compared to last year. Bangladesh, it has a large book, almost doubled their soybean exports compared to this time last year. And I have some of that information here. So this is where I used a different set of data. This is going to be census data. So this is going to be data of shipments of beans that have landed in the country that they were being exported to. And this is comparing September of 24 through May of 25 to September of 26 through May of 26, or excuse me, September of 25 through May of 26. So this is kind of the most up-to-date official export data that we have. And I wanted to show this because all 6 markets here listed on the left are top 10 markets for US soybeans pretty much year over year. Excuse me, top 15 markets, somewhere in the top 15. And all of them are up significantly. And so when we talk about rest of world exports, we talk about, China's still important, but the rest of the world is very important and trade is changing. This is what we're talking about. We're looking at Egypt. They're up over half compared to this time last year. And Egypt has been an incredibly strong market for US soy for over the last 5 years. Vietnam is up significantly. Indonesia is up significantly. And so as soybeans are available, countries are importing them. We certainly still think that China is an incredibly important market for US soy, but we also do see growing demand for whole beans in various markets. Now, soybean meal looks very different. Last year, we set a record. The year before, we set a record. This year, we're setting a record. And so as this kind of crush capacity has come online, I caught the very tail end of Tom Berry's presentation. He talked a lot about that soybean oil being utilized domestically. And as a byproduct of that is that we now have soybean meal in tonnage that we've never had before. So it's much more cost effective. It's much more competitive on the international marketplace. And we see that as these beans are being crushed and the meal is being created, the meal is finding a home. And so like this shows, we're way ahead. The soybean meal marketing year ends a month after whole beans. So we're only last week we were in week 41. We are on track to hit 17 million metric tons of soybean meal, which is a very large difference compared to just about 10 years ago. When we look specifically into those markets that are importing this meal, the Philippines has always been US soy's #1 market for soybean meal, even when it was least competitive on the international marketplace. And now we see that as it has been more competitive, they are actively choosing to purchase more US soybean meal compared to other origins like Argentina. Mexico, again, very strong partner. Most of Latin America, which is a region that you all are invested in, is heavily purchasing US soybean meal. I believe the statistic is of the top 15 soybean meal markets, Central and the upper portion of South America makes up about 7 of those markets, so about half of our top 15 markets, and we see that in these numbers here. Again, kind of switching sources of data, so kind of going back, this is going to be the official data of like landed soybean meal shipments in a country. These numbers, when I was pulling them, in my opinion, are kind of incredible. We see Japan is up almost 100% over where they were last year. And that, what that means is Japan is a mature market. There is not more demand for soybean meal. There is not a growing demand for soybean meal. What this is a very clear displacement of soybean meal from other origins in countries like Japan. Countries like the Philippines and Ecuador, those are going to be opportunity for us to gain not only market share, but also meet growing demand. But this Japan piece is really fascinating to me because that means as US soybean meal has become more competitive, we are beating out Argentine and Brazilian meal in that market as a meal product. And so realizing that the soy whole bean conversation and it looks a little bit depressed compared to years past, when we look at this, the meal market is way up. And so this is really a great opportunity for U.S. soy as we continue to have more soybean meal available. Now I'm just going to move in and give you a quick update on your projects. You all funded 4 projects for us. Our project year ends on September 30th. So we just rounded the corner on Q3 and headed into our final little bit of the year. First, want to talk about Europe. You saw Europe on a couple of those other slides. One thing I didn't mention was that soybean meal in Europe, so U.S. soybean meal to Europe, has increased pretty significantly over the last 2 or 3 months. There has been a concern with HB4 soybeans, which is an unapproved trait in Europe from other countries. So HB4 soybeans is not a commercialized trait in the U.S. So therefore, there's no risk of it getting into the system. HB4 is not an approved trait in Europe, and so what we've seen is that with the risk of having an unapproved trait in Europe, they've actually begun purchasing more soybean meal from the U.S. over the last couple of months. So knowing that, this project is heavily focused on highlighting the benefits of U.S. soybean meal, explaining some of the market dynamics and how they've changed, engaging with the European animal industry to specifically say, hey, we have the meal, this is the nutritional value of it, and we're ready to meet your needs. So how we're kind of doing that engaging is kind of through 2 areas. Soy Connect, which you all are a sponsor of, and it's happening in a little over 9 days. And we're utilizing some of your funding to bring customers and animal utilization experts from Europe into the event to kind of meet with U.S. soy suppliers, exporters, grower leaders, kind of the full gamut at this event, while also learning and gathering some of that technical and nutritional information that is presented at the conference. The other portion of this project is being used for an Europe Animal Utilization Conference, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It is technical training focused towards the poultry sector, so nutritionists, producers, anyone really associated with actually creating feed rations and utilizing feed ingredients in the poultry industry. We're talking a little bit about precision feed strategies and how U.S. soybean meal is a cleaner product. It has less waste. So what does that mean in the diet of the animal? And then obviously Europe is big on sustainability. So we use this event to highlight the very clear sustainable message of U.S. soy. It is a sustainable product. It is certified sustainable. It meets the needs of the EUDR requirements. So that is why you should utilize U.S. soybean meal. Moving on to Japan soy food support. This project was aimed at natto manufacturers within Japan. Natto is a traditional food utilized in Japan. It has to be a specific type of soybean to meet the kind of requirements to be utilized for natto. And there are only about 4 states that grow natto in the U.S. North Dakota, kind of the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, bits and pieces of that, North Carolina, and Arkansas. So you all are a supplier of natto beans to the Japanese marketplace. This is obviously a highly specialized area, so it's IP product, but you all are one of those states, and so this made sense. This project is focused on doing media outreach to explain U.S. sourced natto versus natto sourced from Canada. We're engaging with industry associations like the Natto Food Manufacturers Association and different groups like that. And then a lot of what's happening with this programming is walking into natto manufacturers and having one-on-one discussions about their concerns, their needs, what they need in a raw material, and then explaining how U.S. soy can be a solution to those problems or those concerns that they have when they're producing food ingredients for human consumption. A lot of this adds, if you've ever interacted with anyone from Japan, they are very much a relationship-based country and culture. And so a lot of this project is focused on offering solutions to problems, creating relationships, strengthening relationships so that they can see U.S. soy as the supplier of choice when they're sourcing sourcing natto beans. It also gives us an opportunity to get market feedback. Canada is our largest competitor in this space, and they are really trying to gain market share in this specific space every day. They do events with their embassy, they do events with different groups, and so we're utilizing part of this project and the overall effort in USEC to make sure that we're understanding what's happening in the market and being able to create programming to combat that. This also helps us give and create a strategic position for U.S. soy. Our sustainability messaging is important. As you'll see, it might be hard to see, but that little brown label at the top of each of these natto packs is actually the front of pack label for sustainable U.S. soy. And so we do have a consumer label that can go front on pack based off of our sustainability assurance protocol. And that actually is a differentiating factor for us in places like Japan. So we want to continue to build on that momentum, explain the label, what it means, how it can be considered sustainable, and that type of thing. Moving into the Americas, I just talked about the Americas as a whole as a market. And so as you can imagine, this is where we're engaging a lot. The Americas is growing in population, growing in demand, growing in their economic buying power. So we see more middle class, and they're wanting to purchase more meat, which means more demand for feed ingredients and raw and feed ingredients to feed the growing demand for animal protein. So again, here we're engaging specifically with the animal and aquaculture industries. Soy Connects is playing an incredibly important portion to this. The Americas region is bringing 90 customers to the event in 9 days, so very large presence from some of our biggest buyers. We also are utilizing some of this funding to conduct aqua feed formulation and nutrition workshops. This photo is actually literally from like 2 weeks ago from this exact workshop that we hosted with aqua feed producers in Ecuador. A lot of this is technical education and focused on connecting or engaging with Latin American aquaculture industry. We want to help them understand and increase the awareness of U.S. soybean meal in the animal ration or the fish ration and the benefits it can have for different species. So we're looking at soy and shrimp rations because shrimp is an important portion of the Ecuador economy, tilapia, things like that. There are some U.S. soy optimized feeds and talking about the feeding techniques and technologies and how all that goes together for the benefit of the fish and makes producers more profitable. And then we're obviously engaging with the rapidly growing aquaculture industry. Aquaculture is a culturally accepted food. There is not a religion or a kind of a cultural area that doesn't really eat fish, which means that Latin America is growing when it comes to exporting fresh and frozen fish to the rest of the world. And so we want to make sure that we're engaging early and often with these producers and explaining how U.S. soybean meal can and is a good protein to include in the ration. And our last official project, like I mentioned, Soy Connects, I'll talk about that in a second, but our last official project is our Soy Excellence Centers. You all funded this project, and I believe Brad is your representative on the Soy Excellence Center Global Advisory Panel, and I believe he has recently traveled with this group. But the Soy Excellence Centers are focused on education, conducting these education courses both in person and virtually, and then obviously the overall governance. The Soy Excellence Centers are funded completely by a combination of USDA funds through the Ag Trade Promotion, formerly the ATP funds, but now the America First Trade Promotion Project, and QSSB dollars. So we don't currently utilize any USB or checkoff dollars from the United Soybean Board for this programming. So this project itself and program itself is heavily dependent on our QSSB partners. And because of that, we created the Global Advisory Panel where funding QSSBs can have a grower leader sit on that and kind of review governance and provide guidance to make sure that we're staying relevant and producing the right type of content to engage with these. We're looking at conducting SEC trainings around the world right now. As of March of 21, we had done 21 structured events, which means like actual physical trainings with reaching just under 3,000 participants. That number does not factor in our the digital and the hybrid events that we've hosted. That number is much higher. So we're looking forward to having a really solid base of events for this year. This project also, we are creating an SEC in China. China obviously still an incredibly important market for us, and we were missing some of that engagement with early in their career individuals. And so this year we are creating a Soy Excellence Center in China. What's an important note here is that we can't utilize the AFTPP dollars or any USDA dollars to fund China projects. And so our QSSB dollars, so the China SEC is being fully funded and supported by our SEC, our QSSB partners, which we are incredibly thankful for. Also, there is a push to get an expansion and a better understanding of kind of these key performance indicators of how the Soy Excellence Centers are beneficial and how they're resulting in real dollars being spent on real shipments of U.S. soy. My last little note is Soy Connects. Like I said, we're just under 9-10 days away from the event. Registration, we have 796 people registered to attend the event, which will be the largest that we've held ever since we hosted this event. We rebranded the event in 2022, and this is a significant increase in the amount of attendees. Just under 400 of those attendees are from 65 countries, and so we are going to have a large presence from international buyers. We have a large presence of U.S. industry, so exporters. We have around 120 to 130 of our member companies. They will be participating in the event. And we've got some of the largest buyers from markets like Mexico, Europe, China, Indonesia slated to attend the event. So we're looking forward to a great event and really appreciate Arkansas Soy's support of that event. We would not be able to host those events without the support of our QSSB partners. And with that, I will stop and answer any questions.
Thank you, Brianna, and I will be going to that Soy Connect as the first year director, which is in Chicago this year.
I've got a question. You spoke about competitiveness of our meal versus South American meal. Is that just strictly price or?
So part of the reason we've seen such an uptick is because price. I mean, as much as we want to talk about the benefits of U.S. soy, price is still the biggest driver. So the price has been the biggest part, but what we've been able to kind of capitalize on now is you've bought the meal. Now let us prove that it actually has nutritional advantages. So there's things like amino acid, heat damage, different factors that actually affect the way the meal is processed by the animal, that now that they've purchased it and they're trying it, we're able to expand upon that. So price is still probably the biggest driver, but we're taking this as an opportunity to explain the intrinsic value of meal.
And then the amount of exports that leave via the Gulf versus the PNW when it comes to meal. How you have those numbers?
I would need to get the exact percent, but just when you look at soybean flow, 60% of soybeans or the soy complex is exported out of the Gulf.
Okay.
So even with meal, I mean, Bunge has a crush plant in New Orleans, so they are spending a lot of elevation of meal. They're crushing it there. They're sending it, directly out of the Gulf. Other companies are crushing it in, further into the heart of the U.S. and still sending it down. I don't know the exact percentage for meal, but it's significantly higher in the Gulf than it is in the PNW. The PNW really only has one meal exporter, AGP, who they're expanding. They added an additional berth. So they are certainly moving a lot of meal via rail out of Nebraska and Kansas over there. But the lion's share of all of it is still headed down the river out of the Gulf.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, one thing, I think you can buy cheaper South American soybean meal, but you add a lot of synthetic amino acids to it to bring it up. Most of those synthetic amino acids made in China. And if they're going to China, they've already got them. So they don't mind spending $15, $20 less. They're saving money on metric ton, and they've got the, jug for whatever to bring it up to par. So I think part of what USEC is doing is trying to show that the digestibility is much higher with U.S. soy. And if you look, y'all seen what hurricanes do to our beans in the South. That's kind of what Brazil's look like every year, but they're drying it maybe twice, cutting it to 20-25% moisture, having to dry it. Drying beans doesn't they, where our advantage is we're sun dried and a lot more pristine, but once you put it in the mill format, you can't tell how bad it looks. Right? I mean, is that pretty solid statement, Brianna?
Yeah, and you kind of led me to something I wanted to mention. USEC is working on a what we call the gold standard, which stands for grain and oilseed livestock digestibility, and that project is trying to help get some of the real data behind when you're purchasing soybean meal. The big metric has always been crude protein. That's what people have purchased on for 100 years. And people are now realizing, kind of like what Brad said, is maybe crude protein is not the end all be all for how you should be purchasing some of this stuff. You should be factoring in some of the amino acid complex and some of that digestibility, because the end product of how much money you save when you look at per head or per bird or per pound of whatever you're producing, there is a real advantage to U.S. soybean meal. And so we have this gold standard project that's kind of being funded by some of our states and some of the USDA funding to really kind of dig into that data and get real actionable data about what these numbers mean, and then which will inform how we can kind of have these conversations about crude protein means this, but the numbers say this when we're looking at U.S. soybean meal.
And Matt, maybe I know Brianna's not gonna say this, but the southern states do have an advantage. And Brianna's from Georgia, so she can, she won't say it out loud, I'll say it too. We do have an advantage in the South over the Midwest. How do you capitalize on it? Yeah. Better. Okay. Anything else for Brianna? Another great presentation. Thanks, Brianna.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Next up, it looks like we have Easton with soy aquaculture, our final presentation, I believe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your flexibility. Is my screen coming through and my voice all right?
It is.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's good to connect with all of you. Happy to share a little bit about Soy Aquaculture Alliance, but I will first say that I resent that Midwest comment because I actually day job out of Iowa, so we'll have to pick that fight later. My name is Easton. I've been the executive director in varying capacities for Soy Aquaculture Alliance since 2022. You may have met or connected with my predecessor, Katie Hall. She moved on to bigger and better things after a short tenure with Iowa Soybean and then SAA. So, farm kid from Northeast Iowa and really happy to be here. So Arkansas is a new member, and thank you very much for that. For those of you who are not familiar with SAA, we are the domestic aquaculture promotion and research arm of the U.S. soy machine. Our focus is primarily on aquafeed research and increasing the value of soy in aquafeed, but then we also complement USEC and other programs by building a domestic market for soy. So currently, about 90% of U.S. seafood is imported. There's a number of reasons for that, largely labor and cost of production, and then a little bit of climate. So your state actually is one of the leading top 5, I believe, aquaculture producing states. So I think that aquaculture domestically is actually unique interest and advantage to your group. How we do this is, as I mentioned, primarily in aquafeed and research. I'll go into depth in that in a moment. We also spend a lot of time building relationships, promoting our knowledge to the aquaculture industry, and attending events here. We do some market development, and then we do a lot of education among our soybean family, which would be similar to this function today. We also put out a quarterly report and advise and coordinate, or largely one of our core functions is coordinating with USEC, WISH, ASA, and USB to ensure that our checkoff dollars are going as far as possible, that we're not having duplicative projects. So largely, USB delegates most of the aquaculture research to us now. There are still a few projects, but we really try to align that here. So, and then we have a small policy war chest. This is non-checkoff, of course, but there's not a lot of activity until the last 2 years on the policy side. So I'll get deeper into that. But I think this is a helpful way to just understand our place in the soy family. Obviously, you have all your national organizations, and really where we are as another national organization is just coordinating. This should be 13 now. Thank you. Coordinating all of the QSSBs together. We pool our resources to then complement the rest of the U.S. soy family. And then our focus is on the primary species in the U.S. Our research is really trying to reduce anti-nutritional factors of soy and aquafeed, and this actually has global value and implications. And then increase just the awareness and utilization of soy production in the U.S. Just full transparency, this is our full membership. So you're joined by 12 other states. And again, thank you very much. It was good to meet Robert. He came down to our board meeting in Texas earlier in July. I got to see about 3 or 4 different farms and 5 or 6 different species, all the way from domestic pond production, rearing juveniles, all the way through processing and promotion. So homegrown shrimp is one of the largest, homegrown, and Bowers are one of the largest producers in the United States for redfish. They do catfish, shrimp, and are starting to get into tilapia. So it was a really good experience. I hope you have to ask him directly, but I think he learned a lot. He had some fun seeing some things he hasn't seen before. But as far as research priorities, I should say too, so the way that we operate, you may be familiar with the Southern Research Program or the North Central Soybean Research Program. The way those are structured is rather than voting on individual projects, we pool the resources together, and then we have an advisory team of the largest aquafeed manufacturers in the world, specifically in the United States. Here, they advise us on our research portfolio. So we put out an RFP. We set a research budget, which is roughly 55% of our annual operating budget. So half of this budget goes directly into the projects I'll share with you in just a moment. But that delegates then essentially which projects, none of you are aquaculture experts. Your support of us is to that pooled funding that we then invest in the promotion and research projects that I'm sharing with you today. So happy to answer.
We're part of the Mid-South Soybean Board.
Mid-South Soybean Board, perfect. So yeah, should operate very, very similarly. So our research priorities, what do we really focus on? This has evolved through my tenure. It used to be just any project that kind of sounded good. Now we really want to focus on the projects that are going to move meal. To move meal, you have to change habits and change feed on the farm. So we have really weighted our research rubric evaluation to practical on-farm projects and commercial scale projects. We've done a lot of work over the last our existence is 15 years, but soy as a whole has done a lot of work on the anti-nutritional space. So it's becoming less of our priority, but it's still the number one limiter for including soy and aquafeed is its anti-nutritional factors. And it's challenging because you have 30 species. It's not, 3 or 4 varieties of poultry and then, same for pork and beef and others. Every fish has a different need at a different life stage. So our priority species are shrimp, salmon, trout, and most recently, I would say largemouth bass has really grown. We see this as one of the best opportunities. It's a domestic species. It's produced in your state, and it's growing. In China, in the last 5 years, it's grown like 88%. So huge growth, specifically in Asian markets. Largely here, it's a sport fish. But as long as it's eating soy, we don't care if we're catching it or we're feeding it whole in a live market. We just want it to eat some soy. So we're doing research there, and I'll share a little bit more on that. And then catfish is king. It's the largest by far. And actually, more recently, this has become not only a meal moving advantage, but a political advantage in that it's by far the largest species produced. Soybean meal has become more cost competitive in their feed formulation diet. So they're already buying it more organically. The challenge is there's only maybe 5 feed mills that are making catfish feed. So that's good, but politically,
Can you hear me, Easton?
I can, yeah.
We have a large bait fish operation, a couple around Lone Oak, Carlisle. I think the world's largest bait fish
Where's that
farm.
at?
Are you, at Lone Oak? Is it Anderson's? So I didn't know if you were supplying the bait fish industry, minnows, goldfish, whatever else, or are they using fish meal?
My guess is they're probably using some sort of plant protein. If you can get me a contact, I'll get you a better answer. It really comes down to who their feed supplier is. And but my guess is fish meal is very cost prohibitive. I mean, we have a natural advantage because one, sustainability wise, people want to get away from fish meal, but then also, of course, cost. So they're looking at how to get more and more plant protein. We just want to make sure the plant protein is soy. But yeah, send that contact over. That'd be a good connection. Yeah, so we're primarily on soybean meal, but there in aqua feed formulations, we have every protein product, mostly to maximize the protein content and eliminate anti-nutritional factors. So SPC is becoming more and more of interest, and there's other things like fermented soy that folks are curious about. This is a lot, but I just wanted to show you kind of the breadth of our portfolio. This is over the last 3 years, actually. One of the other challenges in fish research, aquafeed research, is the grow out cycle is 18 months from fingerling to market fillet. So we don't have the short turnaround times for research trials. So that's why this is actually 3 years, because some of them started 3 years ago and we're just getting the results in now. I just want to highlight a few to give you a flavor of what we've been working on. The most interesting one, I think, or exciting one, is in this soybean wax mitigating off flavor. So, short history or short education, I guess. If you produce fish in a recirculating aquaculture system, so tanks indoors, there's a tendency, because that water is recycled, to have what's called an off flavor. So you as a customer, when you eat it, you can taste like, oh, this was actually produced indoors. It's one of the biggest barriers globally. And what this project is a new technology, not only using to mitigate that, but it's also using soybean wax to do it. So it turns out if you filter the water through a soybean wax disc, or a series of discs, depending on the size of the system, it will eliminate off flavor when it goes to market. So that does two things. One, it's a nominal use of soy through soybean wax, but this technology is actually going to increase the palatability of the fish and the quality of the product when produced in aquaculture systems. So very, very cool technology. Really nerdy. Who knew that you needed soybean wax to make indoor fish production taste good? But there you are. Not the weirdest idea I've heard this week. And then I thought it would be interesting for you to just understand our largemouth bass portfolio. So again, a species that's produced in your state. We have done a lot of work. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 largemouth bass projects in our portfolio today. And there were two limiters to this. One was it's very difficult to have a high survival rate for juvenile largemouth bass. So traditionally, like if you have eggs from a brood stock, you may only get 5% of those to survive to a point where they grow to a gram and then can actually be grown out to a full fish. We've did projects in partnership with Auburn University that got that survival rate from 5% to 85%. So now you have a consistent production of juvenile largemouth bass. Great, check that box. Now what we're working on is the precision nutrition strategy, and this is where soy really starts to shine. So at every stage, it goes from truly they're eating algae to they're eating a micron to then eating a 1 millimeter pellet, 3 millimeter pellet, and then a dog food size pellet. And then there's a different fat to protein ratio and much more than that. I'm oversimplifying it for the sake of time, but along each one of those stages. So this will ultimately give you the precision strategy for what to feed in the soy inclusion at every stage of largemouth bass production. The other ones are on this are on-farm trials. So the other limiter in getting soy and largemouth bass production is actually farmer perception. They had one bad experience 10 years ago, and then we're all farmers. If one farmer doesn't think, that's the way to do it, then others are likely to believe that regardless of the science. And so we have field days and on-farm trials to show that soy can indeed produce high quality largemouth bass. So happy to nerd out on any of these as you'd like, but those are really the two good stories I have to share with you today, but we have a really comprehensive production portfolio. Questions on that?
And the demand for that largemouth bass is out of China mainly as a food source?
So no, so everything here it's actually largely sport fish right now. Yeah, it's for pond stocking, but the food fish market is growing significantly. So if you can get it, I mean, it's already there, but I mean, it's in Asian sub communities and metro areas. They want a live largemouth bass produced within, or um, at a specific market size. So these are going live to market in many cases. In order to get it to an American consumer or to traditional consumer, it has to be, it's all about the fillet, right? So we have to get a production system that's efficient that you can then fillet and then package there. Um, so I will say though, the same technology can be used by USEC to help Chinese producers use soy in their feed formulations. That's the coordination with USEC and USB.
So I've got a question on the largemouth bass. If you're raising them on soy and you release them in the wild, are they still competitive for food and that predatory nature that they would naturally have, or is that affected at all?
That's a great question that I don't know the specific answer to. I would assume it's just to get them to grow. I would assume once they get in the wild, they're gonna eat whatever's in front of them.
They're dependent on it in a while.
Yep. Yeah,
They
these
go out
diets are largely for the food fish. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer your question. I know we're tight on time. The other thing I wanted to end on in our work, this is some on the research side, but we've been doing work. Part of the limiter in market development is really around regulation. And two things, there's currently only one offshore aquaculture system. So if any of you have traveled for US soy, you've probably seen aquaculture around the world, and there's, cages off in the ocean or cages near shore. That doesn't happen here in the United States. There's only one, and it's in Kona, Hawaii. Great place to visit. Highly recommend if you're ever curious. But part of that's because in federal waters, the permitting process takes 8 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even get a fish in the water. So it's not practical for any business to pursue. That has now been resolved, and we're going to see, and SAA has funded part of getting the first offshore aquaculture system in the Gulf of America. So we expect by early 2027, this first pen will produce about 40,000 tons or 40,000 pounds of redfish a year, a red drum, excuse me, as a pilot demonstration that will then inform and allow us to scale and get other offshore production systems in the water. So a huge, huge success. We funded the social license research. We've been in lockstep with that group since they started. It's a really exciting milestone. The other, and this is where we enter our non-checkoff part of the agenda, is we've been working on there's a policy that's been introduced on both the House and Senate side called the MARA Act, the Marine Aquaculture Research for America Act. And that is really giving NOAA the authority to grant these permits. So it gets the timeline from 8 years down to 8 months. And that's maybe an exaggeration, don't quote me on the specifics, but it's really just simplifying the regulatory. So they're not going to EPA and then the Army Corps and then FDA and all these, or USDA, excuse me. It's one body that's responsible for coordinating amongst the other agencies. So streamlining the investments and implementation of other projects. So that's all I have today as far as an update. I don't know that I know Robert attended, but he is technically on the USB board. if you guys have an appointee for future meetings, let me know and I'll be sure to make sure they're on the memos and board meetings, and you'll get a much deeper education. And then, lastly, this is our partnership structure. So every year the board sets this and we just have the same flat ask. So I just want to again say thank you. I'm very grateful for your partnership, particularly as an aquaculture state. It's good to have you folks there, and most of our supporters don't have a lot of aquaculture, but they recognize its potential long term. So it's really good to get closer to the actual demand. So I'll pause there. Any questions I can offer? Was it helpful? And otherwise, we'll get you off to lunch, I suppose.
Anybody interested in representing us on that soil aquaculture alliance? Vermont area, you got lots of fish down there. Doesn't hurt anybody.
I'd like to if nobody else does.
Perfect. That would be great. If all of the citizens have BJ. And we've got you a representative.
Excellent. We'll send some contact information. Maybe we can set up a separate call and I'll give you the onboarding.
Appreciate that. Great.
Excellent.
Anything from Matt Smith? Easton, thank you for presenting. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, thanks again for your flexibility. It was helpful. I know there's a lot going on, and there's never a time where presentations are on time, right? So you guys have a good day. Have a good meeting. Talk soon.
All right. Next on the agenda, election of officers. We actually have two options here. We can keep it as is, and I am more than willing to serve as chairman another term as Caleb getting his feet in place. Is that the way you understood it? If you want to explain that process or not?
Yeah, no pressure, but y'all do have an annual election of officers. If you don't make any motions, then the positions stay as they are.
So whatever the wish of the board is.
I'll let you see them.
Can we hear the officers as they are now? Who holds what position?
I start, go ahead.
Yeah, Brad is chairman, Matt Smith is vice chairman, and West is secretary treasurer.
Well, I'd like to recommend we keep those, and if everybody's in agreement, then we'll do it by acclamation and affirm that we're gonna keep doing what we're doing.
We need official vote on that.
You don't have to make a motion. If no motions are made, positions will stay as they are.
Any comment from Matt Smith online?
No, I'm good.
Everybody good with current status? Good here. Well, I appreciate the support and we'll continue on. Other business, I know we're short on time, so I want to respect
Hey y'all, one thing we do need to get for U of A is the fellowship program recommendation, a good student's name from those 4 applicants. And if you wanted to speak on that, go ahead. Otherwise, we're just looking for a motion to, get a good candidate in the fellowship program.
Yeah, I can speak on that. I believe, that Nathan was able to join us online. And so, Soybean Board created a fellowship, I believe it was 5 years ago, for $500,000. This will be the 5th and final year of that MOA. The current balance that you have available is $161,000. We currently have 4 applicants, Gage Long, Anna Graves, Paige Plage, and Natalia Sutfine. They're all coming in into a master's program. And so what that is, it's equivalent of $1,000 per student per month for up to 2 years in their master's program. So it's up to the board to decide among those 4 who y'all would like to proceed to receive the fellowship. It can be more than one. So if you wanted to fund all four of those, or if you wanted to fund however many of those that you wish. So the way the MOA is written up, from my understanding, is that you'll provide your recommendation, and then ultimately that goes on to Dr. Fields to make the final determination of which students, among those that you have selected, to receive funding through the fellowship. And then another item for the board to consider, it doesn't necessarily have to be today, but this being the last year of the fellowship, if that's something that y'all want to proceed in the future with another MOA to provide student support.
I think the continuance we can worry about later, but today we want to vote or discuss these four students. I think that was, did we get them on?
Yes, it was on that.
Any thoughts from the board here on what we want to do?
It's a good program. In the past, we've sort of concentrated on individuals that we felt like would continue their careers in the state to benefit, Arkansas agriculture. That being said, I don't know the intentions of these individuals once they graduate, if they will continue to pursue a PhD or their master's and get out, but it's been a really good program for some individuals in around the state that we've funded in the past. They have continued their dedication to Arkansas agriculture. But
I mean, is it okay to ask what their long-term goals are and what they plan to do after graduation? Is that a okay thing to do?
I think so. I think that was the intention of the program. I mean, we could probably look into their research here.
You got one from Iowa. You have one from Clarksville, Mississippi, one from California, and
one from Jonesboro.
The last one's from Jonesboro.
So this is the fifth and final year, so we probably just keep it to a 12-month or a 1-year funding cycle. Is that what y'all trying to put us out past the 6th year, fit into the additional year? And what happens to the $160,000 if it's not spent?
So there would be a balance. So let's say, for instance, you chose to go ahead and fund all four, that's gonna be, just over $96,000. And so there would be a balance that would be returned to the board if the fellowship program were to end, or you could go on and use the balance to support students for, an additional period. It would just limit the capacity of how many students could be supported in that final year.
Okay, we'll take some recommendations or thoughts from anybody here.
And
University have any recommendations?
And Mr. Chairman, I do think that the student that indicated they were born in Mississippi, but they have spent their life in Arkansas. So you have kids here that are out of state and 2 that are in state.
Okay.
So Gage Long would be an out-of-state student. He's working in wheat science under Jason Norsworthy. Anna Graves would be an in-state student working under Ben Thrash with insect work. Paige Flays would be working with Trent Roberts on the soil health project. I believe she's the one from California. And then Natalie Suppine, the individual from Arkansas.
I believe Ben Thrash was a recipient.
That's what I thought too.
Of the,
Yeah.
right.
Any wishes?
So it's, explain this to me again. It's 90, it would be 96,000 over 2 years. So it'd be 24,000 per student. This money is not going towards,
So the total, is it the total for all students for 2 years would be 96,000?
Yes,
and the money does not go towards tuition, correct?
correct.
Okay, this is just to provide them
Just to help.
support to stay in school.
That's right. Yeah, they get a direct check.
And then the 160,000 that's available, when does that expire? Like, does it ever roll over into another 160,000?
We'd have to renew it.
It's the
We had-
balance of initial 500,000, right?
So it started out at 500,000. I got you. Okay.
And I would need to go back and review that MOA to determine at the end of the 5-year period, if there's a balance that stays with the fellowship and y'all continue until it's depleted, or if at the end of the funding period, you go back and determine if those funds come back to the board.
What is the fellowship request process? So why is there 4, not 1, not 20? Like, what's the?
So that's a good question. And so there's a call. It went out back in June to all of the departments for students that would like to apply for the fellowship. And these were the 4 recipients that we received.
Okay. And what would you say the total pool would be?
It varies from year to year.
It varies by incoming freshmen. The question is among all the departments, are there students in other departments that are doing research that y'all are funding, if they're getting the message or not? For example, the work that y'all are funding in the animal sciences and poultry sciences. Hopefully those students are seeing the call. We do know that in our crop, soil, environmental science, and entomology and plant pathology departments, the message is getting out because y'all are getting applicants from there.
And the funding level is different. These are all masters, but the PH, what was that level?
That was gonna be $1,500.
That student would get 1,500 versus a master's student.
And those students really require like 3 years to complete.
Yeah, it's a long-term investment.
Does that come out of the same pool of money?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
PhD and the masters. So
Yeah.
this year we only have master students applying, where next year we may have PhDs. Okay.
I mean, this one looks more like just a straight up cover crop research that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's got a lot of value. We're very limited in the Delta as far as adding livestock into a regenerative ag rotational type. I don't know where that person is from. They flag.
Dr. Slayton has his hand raised on the Zoom. He is available.
All right, yeah, if I could just shed some light on this. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, the MOA was established, and each year for 5 years, y'all put in $100,000. Okay. So this is the last year for that $100,000 installment.
Okay.
I don't think that the MOA addresses at the end of 5 years, what should happen to a balance. For example, right now, if you fund students that are just starting their master's degree program, their master's degree program is going to extend beyond that quote 5th year installment. So the way that we have calculated the balance that exists is for the existing students who have a fellowship, if, they go all the way through their program and exhaust the amount of funding that is made available, that would be the balance that is left over once they finish. So that's what we have presented to you as 4 candidates who have applied. In the nomination letter, I believe all of them address what they are, doing on their project as well as their future plans. Right now, I think to address, whether animal science and poultry science students are getting this, 2 of the students that y'all have funded on this fellowship in the past were doing animal science projects. So, yes, I believe that they are getting the information.
And I think poultry science definitely has a huge, but this looks more like a beef cattle grazing, this one student. So, but the ask, we would just put in our normal $100,000 this year and not be asked to, that be it until we made a new agreement or whatever.
Until there's a new MOA, and I just looked at the MOA and it was written up as a gift. So those funds would remain in that fellowship program, and y'all would continue to have students apply against that fellowship until those funds.
So U of A is gonna get it regardless. The 500, we just need to authorize these 4 students or not.
Yes.
Is that maybe obvious where we need to go?
Yes, I was thinking.
Matt, you got any final thoughts on that?
I don't.
We either approve these 4 or it just goes in, I guess, general fund for them.
I'll move to approve the 4.
Second. Motion and second to approve the 4 students as presented, and that would be for clarity for 2 years.
For 2 years.
For 2 years, and it equals $96,000, is that correct?
In total, yes.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, okay? All right, did want to make a comment, maybe about United Soybean Board real quickly. We were at the meeting last week. They did hire a new CEO. She's formerly with USAC, National Pork Board, USDA under Richard Fordyce. She worked as a senior advisor for Secretary for Rollins, and now she is the ag liaison to the National Security Council. So she was in contact with Margaret Rubio almost on a daily basis. She'll be a strong advocate. Comes from an Iowa farm. Our family's still row crop and hog producers, so supporting that. And I did think the Secretary Ward has a good relationship with her, invited her to Arkansas. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity for us to come here. USEC is planning another summer visit. They're going to swing by our place this summer, I think, on that soy connection work. Firefighting foam. Everybody familiar, I think, about the soy firefighting foam? So in the past, soy or firefighting foam, it's used in certain situations where just water doesn't work. And there's been some issues, I think, cancer causing ingredients with PFASs. And so through Soy Checkoff, there's been a development of a product that uses soybean meal. So Hannah and I had some really good conversations. They're coming to Arkansas and they're going to do a demo with the Conway Fire Department. Robert Stovall's taking the lead on that, and Robert Petter as well. And so by visiting with them the last couple of days, there might be an opportunity for us to have a little funding participation in it, less than $1,000 to help supply some of that firefighting foam. They're sold in like buckets. $140 a bucket, and you know, I mean, you got kind of capability on the fire department to handle foam, but it's already in play. It's green, it's safe for the environment, so you know, if you do have any excess wash off, but I told him I would try to get some funding to help that field day. We would be invited. I think communication group is gonna try to plan on being there and get some recognition, so I think this would be a good thing. But is that something of interest to you guys to help support?
Absolutely.
Maybe in the form of a motion up to $1,000 support that.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, I'll second, any other discussion? Caleb, is that worded enough to do what we need to do?
Can you, and maybe you said this out of my head elsewhere, the entity name that this is going to?
It would be Karen Edwards is the contractor. That's point of contact. There would be an LLC or a group associated with this soy firefighting project. Soy fire foam project. That's generic enough. I apologize, I didn't get the full details, but.
I might be able to work with that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on this.
Are they gonna come present what they're doing, Brad, at some point?
Yes, we will have, well, so this was a USB funded project. Robert Petter was willing to make this, you know, investment. But he did ask, but yes, we absolutely will have them. We'll be invited to that field day. They're not asking it. We just thought it would be great for us to be at the table, I think it's an event that's gonna have like 700 firefighters there. And they pull into the gate, it will have either Arkansas Soybean Promotion Board, or she's already kind of did that on her own. I just thought it'd be nice for us to be a part of that.
Interesting.
And if you'll give me a vote on that.
I will, yes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Anything else on our docket?
Yeah, one thing I want to flag for y'all is the NASA Acres project. So we are getting contracts out to these entities, and NASA Acres is housed at the University of Maryland. It's not working out. The University of Maryland cannot abide to the laws of the state of Arkansas. So they're recommending to move the funding to their foundation. So the University of Maryland Foundation, Inc., which in my opinion, I would need a motion from y'all to move that funding for the NASA Acres project to the foundation. And then with the caveat of even that, I'm not sure how that's gonna go down. But I will look into it if I get a motion from y'all to do that.
The only way that it looks like it's the only avenue for them to get their funding.
In the way I see it, yeah.
And I know this has been frustrating for Caleb because he's had to basically build anything non-UA at a certain level, or well, I guess all of them, this is kind of new. I don't know why we didn't go through this the last year or two, but hopefully after this hiccup, it'll be smooth sailing. So in order for NASA Acres, we do need this motion.
And it is it's a $97,000 project.
And I'm in support of it, so we'll just.
I was fairly intrigued by the project. What is the hang up with the funding side? Can you get into detail any?
I think the University of Maryland's position is since they are a state entity, that they cannot agree to abide by the laws of the state of Arkansas in the agreement.
Okay.
And I might get this contract,
Just fine, right, yes.
I might get this contract to the foundation and it's another where I'm kind of new to all this negotiation.
Yeah.
We can definitely try this route if y'all are.
Yeah,
okay with that.
make a motion to move it to the foundation.
Motion is made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Let's see. I do want to talk about, upcoming meeting dates, just because it really helps the department and our calendar. I very much stuck to the way we did it this year and just basically changed the calendar date. And if y'all are good with that, I'll go ahead and give you these dates so you can put them in your conference. It's March 11th and 12th, 2027 will be your funding meeting. And this is a fluid discussion. If we need to look at different dates, we can definitely do that. So I got March 11th and 12th for your funding dates, July 22nd, 2027 for your summer meeting next year. And then November 4th, 2027 for next year's winter meeting. And your next meeting will be in November 6th this year. Or I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. November 5th this year. Lots of dates. And I'll get that to y'all as well. I just wanted to put that in y'all's heads. And I think Carson has one thing for the USB grant.
Yeah, it just occurs to me, and I think we had talked about this, and I don't know if the board made a decision on it, but we have the opportunity every year to apply for that grant that we were awarded for this mural. And so that's your money, basically. It's Arkansas dollars going to USB, and they kick back 25,000 of that back to us if we apply for this grant. But I know that in order to apply for that, we need your direction to do that. So that application window, I think, comes up this fall. And so if you all wanted to make a decision to allow us to do that, we can go.
To apply for free money?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. I figured it'd be an easy decision, but I.
By consensus. So,
Okay.
yes, every time that's available, that option is fun. Please take advantage of it.
Other than that, Brad mentioned the USAC tour, will be on his farm on August 11th.
And I'll tell you, last year, we had a group that came to my place and then Matt Smith met them at Viserion, so that worked out really well. And y'all are welcome to come meet them at our place. I think they're only scheduled for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yes.
Where is that? At our Eagle Cedar one there.
And they'll also get a tour of the extension center.
That's right, they're having lunch at the, which we could probably join them at, in the Northeast Arkansas Research Center. In Bertram.
Last thing, USB reached out to me about a specific U of A project, about a no cost timeline extension on the project. Something with USB's project would run in conjunction with the work this board does. I need to look into it a little more. The guy that was leading that effort, I don't think is employed with USB anymore. So I'm just kind of flagging that for y'all. I'm not sure what will happen on that front. Other than that, like I said, your next meeting is November 5th. And that's all I have.
Anybody got anything else?
All right, you got anybody else? I'm experienced a lot of dicamba injury this year, and I hate to bring this topic up, but I don't want it to go long. But we've been in list for 2 years, and last year we didn't have to worry so much about the dicamba stuff. This year we're getting torn up, and there's been some recent stuff around the prison there out at north of Dennis there. And I don't know, I'm really, you know, I always felt like it was a valuable tool and we needed it in our toolbox. But now that I've kind of been exposed to the other side of it, pun intended, my thoughts are changing, and I just, if anybody else had thoughts on that, I'd welcome them, but I just, I think that's brewing. I don't think that's settled by any means, and what I've seen is quite concerning. So I'll leave it at that unless somebody else wants.
You're in the right building. We could walk down the hall and probably.
Well, that's probably my next move. And I've tried not to do that, but it seems, you know, it's not a neighbor or a point source. It seemed like every time it rained, we had damage on fields that was 2 miles from anybody else. And I don't know where it's coming from, but, I've got some thoughts and some opinions that differ than I was 2 years ago, so.
We got the state swimming agronomist back there. I don't know if he wants to make a comment or not, but. When did you get your crop report, Jeremy?
What's that?
Any comment to John?
You can pick out any non-dicamba field in the state this year. That's about, and myself and the wheat scientists have gone out on numerous calls with symptomology similar to dicamba. But like John said, I mean, it gets up to foods. I mean, you know, Northward, you've got data showing 48 hours after application and it's still volatilized off with the field and spray, get up and bury it in the food, 360 degrees, whichever way the wind's moving. So nothing we haven't seen since 2016.
Well, right now, there's only one more year. The 27 is the last year as of right now, correct?
For the federal, they're going to do reevaluate it after that. But then, I went and looked, the mayor had a field day a couple months ago. We went and looked at the new biconic soybeans. They're saying it's probably going to be 28, maybe.
28.
So that's the 5-way stack. So that's going to be everything, but we still have concerns over that. And if you have a failure, a stand failure, how are you going to get rid of it? There's nothing. I mean, you know, so that's Roundup, Liberty, dicamba, 2,4-D,
HPPD,
the mesotrione. So, but it's impressive. I mean, they did some demonstrations of different combinations of the herbicides. And they looked at all 5 of those herbicides along with metribuzin and acetochlor. It was clean, but I don't know if anybody's going to be able to afford that. But you get to kind of pick and choose. The only problem is if you have a failure, there's nothing out there that's going to take out the failed stand unless it's paraquat. A lot of people are not going to be willing to use paraquat at that point, and the questions on if paraquat is going to be around longer is still up in the air as well. So
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. In a failed stand with just enlist, what are people using?
What's that?
In a failed stand with enlist beams, what are people using? They're using they're not going to spray dicamba to kill it. So I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, they're probably using paraquat.
they're not spraying. Yeah. So I mean, that to me isn't a huge concern. I mean, I think the technology coming is great. I think it will solve a lot of the problems, especially in the mixed areas where there are dicamba and enlist beans being planted. This, you know, in the same area.
No, and that is just going to get a bigger concern when you start stacking more and more stuff on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but nobody's killing the stand with mesotrione or dicamba right now. So I mean, everybody's using paraquat to kill a stand.
Right. But possibility of paraquat disappearing is.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree. 100%. 100%.
So,
100%. I think it'll be gone in my lifetime for sure.
but we looked at, I mean, the bean, I mean, it looked like beans. I mean, they had from 4 O's to 5 O's. They just looked like beans at that time, but, they still got a little ways to go on all of this stuff. Root knot, they're pretty short on root knot. So I voiced that concern. Some of the other diseases, and, there's other agronomic characteristics that, chloride resistance and things like that they're working on, but, those things are kind of secondary, depending on, looking at yield and other things like that, but.
They have a full gamut of maturities, all the way up to 7. And they,
Well, yeah, and so they're gonna, this launch is gonna be different than any other launch, that's what they told us. I think after this year, they're gonna have, I forget what the number was, but there's like 150 varieties in the portfolio from triple lots to 7s, and so you're gonna have a broader.
problem is they're still regulated right now. It's
Correct.
very, very limited. We already have some in production, but it's in-house production.
Correct. Right. Yeah, still waiting for.
Yeah.
Some of the FDA stuff and EPA stuff, and then especially the overseas markets getting that. You'd think, since a lot of this stuff's already been approved as a single gene, but then every time you add it together with something, it's got to go through the same step. And we were told that they are working on their own 2,4-D formulation. So they'll have their branded 2,4-D, because as of right now, Enlist, you can only spray Enlist 1, that particular 2,4-D on that. And then, so Bayer's having to do the same process, and they're gonna have their own formulation of 2,4-D for the tribone, or not tribone, but their varieties.
Are they by con, not your bailiwick, but they gonna put it in their cotton too, because.
They said that part about 4 years down, 4 years after the soybeans.
Yeah, that's why I don't grow in this.
Yep.
Beans, because correct cotton will not survive.
Right.
In that area.
And we've seen some of that this year too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's not just beans taking a hit, some of the cotton, I've talked to Tom and Zachary, and some of the cotton's taking a hit with 2,4-D.
And I'm not saying that the branded doesn't move, because I think we all know otherwise, but I think that the generic usage of the herbicides is still as prevalent as it ever has been on both sides, generic 2,4-D and dicamba. And I know in my immediate area last year, with Bear not having a label, they pulled a lot of licenses. That's the reason why there's a lot of extend beans in Mississippi County and Pemiscot County this year.
And Liz.
Hmm?
They had
Enlist,
you mean?
a lot of Enlist beans.
No, the other side. And Enlist has pulled some licenses north of me up around Cape Girardeau.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
they've both done it. They're both self-policing and pulling licenses.
Yeah.
Well, I've thought about that. I don't want to get into a long discussion, but it seems that if a company's going to sell that technology, that they need to include the chemistry to go with it. So if I buy a unit of soybeans, then that comes with that needs to be a unit of
100%.
It doesn't need to be the option to go get a generic chemical and save a few dollars, and you're just violating the whole.
I've been saying that since 2017.
That you're defeating the whole purpose of having that there, and now when my neighbors use dicamba, generic dicamba, and it comes on me, that's the equivalent of me using the generic 2,4-D and blowing on their cotton, and nobody wants to get into that, but it's the same thing. And yeah, my attitude has changed about it. I really, I used dicamba very limited in the past, and it was a tool that I pulled out whenever I thought I needed it. And I did it with, great hesitation. Everything needed to be perfect. I had that fear in me, but some of these guys just going and blowing, and, there's no accountability for it. And I think that accountability goes back to the people providing that technology.
Do you have any issues out there that you're seeing major?
No, it was a rough start. We got the crop planted quickest ever. We were 25% ahead of 5-year average, and that's showing now. The crop's progressing pretty rapidly, along with the corn. I mean, there's corn that's starting to dry down today. Probably, I don't know if there's gonna be any shell by the end of July, but definitely 2 weeks into August, there's gonna be some shell. So far, it was pretty calm, but just in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, foliar diseases have exploded. I think with these pop-up showers and the heat that we've had, getting a lot of taproot decline and SDS this year.
Legal on my farm.
Yep, and so you'll start seeing those R5.5, R6 when the plant starts to go under stress. Natural stress, just because it's trying to fill those seed. But that SDS is one of those it's kind of a weird disease that it infects early in the season, and you don't know about it until you get to R6, and then there's nothing you can do about it. I consider SDS a high yielding disease, and so typically in a year we start seeing a lot of SDS, it's really going to be a good year. Now in those spots, it's probably going to be affected, but overall the field's going to probably be good. Just in the last few weeks, frog eye, target spot is starting to show up. Talked to a couple of guys this week, and target spot's moving halfway up to a canopy, but they were at R5.5, and so there's no reason to worry about it at that point. Talked to Ben Thrashick 10 days ago, and at that point they were just kind of setting on go, waiting for the insects to show up. Did hear of a field that got sprayed in Prairie County for stink bugs, but I think it was one of those kind of isolated, surrounded by trees, and it was just a perfect, opportunity for stink bugs. But a lot of nutritional deficiencies this year, and I think it was mainly because of how dry the winter was, and we just didn't have a lot of breakdown of the residue from last year to get those nutrients back. A lot of residue issues at planting. I was looking at a lot of fields that had, behind corn, really good corn, a lot of residue, and the residue just didn't get spread out. And so you had these streaks where, nutrient issues were affecting, and emergence was getting affected. But I think that the dry winter and then having a dry spring, a lot of the nutrients issues just didn't have a really good rooting system, and so it just couldn't find the nutrients. And so we've had a lot of nutrient issues. Nothing really major, a lot of it just irrigation and get a little bit more root system, and it was fine. Some herbicide carryover, a lot of metribuzin issues just because it was so dry when we planted, put out metribuzin, and then the beans started coming up, and then we got rains after that. So residual issues, pre-emergent issues, but a lot of those kind of grew out of it and looked at it. Drones have been an issue. I've walked quite a bit of damage, and I think the weed scientists have too, on drone herbicide usage and it just moving and causing problems. But I think the rice guys have had some issues with soybean herbicides getting on the rice as well. So
I'm not gonna get off into the drone issue, but that's some of the highlights. But some guys need a rain, some guys don't. Station got hit, what, 3 weeks ago with that heavy rain had up in Jonesboro, and it caused a lot of problems. Jared was gonna have the Rice College up there this year, but because of that extensive flooding, he just canceled it just because everything got washed away. And talked to Bob Scott, and he said it seems like everything this year has just kind of gone to kaput in certain areas. And but overall, I think we're gonna have a good year. Don't quote me, but we may set another state record as early as we got planted and as good as the crop's looking right now. Now, we still got another month and a half, 2 months to get through. If we stay in these 100-degree temperatures, it may fall off a little bit. But prices are coming up. I looked a while ago, like somewhere in that 12.50 range. So that's good. Attitudes are a little bit better with that increase in price. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what globally happens, and hopefully we can kind of keep on that trend up. So.
Thank you. I want to be respectful to the employees. I know it's last time. Andrew, do you have anything you want to add to the group? Ag Council? Thanks for all you do.
We're meeting in August and working on a few things in Washington and getting ready for January when the legislature gets back together. Happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it. Thanks again. Do we want any final thoughts before we make a motion to adjourn? We have a motion? Second. All those in favor say aye. Both same time. Thank you all. Thank you, Matt, for joining me.
So
Recording
Julie
stopped.
Robinson asked me to bring these to let y'all have a copy of that. Soybean